We are Timbersports.
United by passion for the sport
and competition.
We chop down racism.
And say yes to tolerance.
Yes to tolerance.
Säg ja till tolerans.
Yes to tolerance.
Yes to tolerance.
是的，理解宽容。
Powiedz tak tolerancji.
Ja zu Toleranz.
We are Timbersports.
Good afternoon and welcome to Great Britain for the STIHL Timbersports Great British Pro Championships of 2022.
My name's Alex Kirkley. I'm your MC and host for the duration of our championships, and I'm delighted to be joined this afternoon by our expert resident commentator, Mr. Troy Mannering. Good afternoon, Troy. Welcome to a sunny, wonderfully beautiful Great Britain.
It's a lovely day, but I mean, you got to admire the British people, and the rain is coming down, but it's not stopping them from coming out in droves to witness the British National Championship here today. So it's going to be a lot of fun, and today the top athlete will be qualified for the World Championship in individual steel timber sports that is going to be happening in Gothenburg in Sweden in October. So there's a lot at stake here today, and looking forward to some really good action, and hopefully you guys will enjoy it out there as well.
Yeah, thanks, Troy. Great to have you on board. All eyes on that ultimate prize in Sweden in October, but this is the first matter at hand, our Great British Championships on this very stage. Troy, what can we expect when it comes to the action?
Well, it's going to be hot today. We saw a couple of the athletes come very, very close to national records yesterday during just the demos, so that tells me that when the adrenaline is really pumping, they're using their actual competition axes and saws, and they're ready to go, that we may see some records fall today. It's going to be interesting, so I'm really looking forward to the action on stage, and it's going to be hot.
Wonderful stuff. Now, we are going to get straight on with it, and we can't do that without our technical officials and our judges onto the stage. So we are going to welcome them on right now, Mr. Andy Hall and Bart Janssen. So yeah, no event is complete without our judges and technical officials. Right on cue. They're keeping the health and safety risks at an absolute minimum, Troy.
Yeah, I mean, we have a lot of stuff that's going on stage and some very dangerous pieces of equipment that are on stage as well. So we have our judges. There's Andy Hall right there. He's one of the stage judges along with Bart Janssen. They'll be keeping a close eye on the action on stage. There's Bart. Hi, Bart. Wave to the audience. We also have STIHL Janssen in the competition control center in behind everything, keeping a close eye on all of the cameras. So occasionally you'll see the guys go and make this square screen with their fingers. That means they're going to go back to competition control center and make sure that all of the action is fair on stage. They have many cameras on stage that are recording at a high rate. So we have super slow-mos and everything up there that really check every single aspect of what's happening on stage.
Great, and we are going to bring our athletes right out and get the show underway. Ladies and gentlemen, here in Malvern, please welcome onto the stage our British pro athletes. First up, it is Gerald Lloyd, Scott Folkes, George Spencer, Joe Groom, Ossian Williams, Bill Huarkey, Terry Huff, Glenn Penlington, Graham Turner, Johnny Lewis, and Tom Redmond.
We still have no update.
Those are your 11 pro athletes who are going to be fighting it out to become this year's Great British Timber Sports Champion. So it's an open field this year, Troy. We've got to say we're looking at a favourite here of Glenn Penlington, having come so close in previous years.
Yeah, well, I mean, he's got the national record for the springboard, so we'll be looking for him to do well in that. He had a great springboard yesterday during one of the demonstrations, and you can't just say that he's the only guy that's going to maybe make it. There's a lot of other guys on stage that are vying for that top spot. Remember, it's only the top guy that's going to be qualified for the World Championship in individual. So there's a lot of action going on here. Now, we've got these 11 guys. That means we're an uneven number, and that means there's going to be every once in a while a single person on stage for a heat. Now, that's not head-to-head elimination in this case. It's about the time. And we're going to check out the format here in just a second so that you have a little bit of a better understanding about what's actually happening on stage and how the eliminations do work through the 3 rounds today. Individual competition. In the first round, all athletes compete in 3 disciplines: the underhand chop, the stock saw, and the standing block chop. The times achieved will be converted into points upon completion of each discipline. In round 1, a difference of 1 point applies in each discipline, thus the fastest athlete received 12 points and the slowest only 1 point. Any rule infraction will result in a disqualification and the athlete will receive 0 points for that discipline. At the end of the first round, the athletes with the lowest scores are eliminated. Only 8 athletes make it to the second round. In this second round, the remaining athletes compete in the single buck and the springboard for increased scores. With 2 points difference between placings, the fastest athlete now receives 16 points and the slowest receives 2. The 2 athletes with the lowest total points are eliminated at the end of round 2. Only the top 6 reach the third round. In the third round, anything is still possible in the hot saw, as an increased score interval of 3 points applies in this final round. The fastest athlete can score up to 18 points at the hot saw, the slowest only 3 points. The athlete who manages to achieve the highest total score across all 3 rounds is the new champion.
We are ready to get underway with the STIHL Timbersports Great British Pro Championships, our first discipline, and it is the underhand chop, the original timber sport. Here's how it's going to pan out.
The axes used in timber sports definitely can't be bought at your local hardware store. Made from special steel, the blade is hand sanded with an angle of 13 to 16 degrees. It's custom built and carefully adjusted for each competition. The weight is around 3 kilos and it's about 80 centimeters long. The blade is so sharp that you could shave with it. Underhand chop. In the past, the underhand chop technique was used to split logs. Standing on a horizontally anchored block, the athletes cut through a 32 centimeter log. The block has to be worked from both sides.
Here we are with our underhand chop start list, heat 1. Onto the stage right now, as you can see. Big round of applause, please, for Gerald Lloyd.
Gerald's going to be up there by himself in this one because we have, like I mentioned, an uneven amount of guys. But as you see, there's the rest of the start list that will then go into head-to-head heats through this first discipline in the first round. So there you see a little bit of the information about Gerald Lloyd. And the poor man has to start everything off here alone on stage. Let's give him a big round of applause out there, folks, for the local people that are here watching. In the meantime,
okay,
here we go.
Athlete, ready.
Stand to your timber. 3, 2, 1, go.
Starting right away with some big drivers on the right-hand side of that block. And he wants to get through that first half of the block as quickly as possible and turn around right around about the 20-second mark. Let's see if he can pull that off here.
Now this is Gerald's debut in a pro competition as well, Troy, so extra things to think about with the crowd being here as well.
The nerves is definitely, but he is looking good. He actually turned around on the other side of his block before the 20-second mark, so he's got a good time so far. He's got to get through there. He's got to have a clean cut through and split that log and step down safely before it can be called a good cut. But he's looking very good, coming close. A few more drivers should do it. It's looking like it's wiggling here. Come on, Gerald, you can do it one more, and there it is. He's done with a time of 39.05. That's a personal best for Gerald, so that's fantastic. Great to see those kinds of results, Alex.
Yeah, absolutely. He made it look like a walk in the park, which feeds in quite well with his hobby in his spare time of walking stick carving.
Oh, nice. Well, there you go. Carving walking sticks for us. Uh-oh, there. You just saw that yellow flag that was down on the deck there, so that means the judges will be investigating something. It could be that we go to competition control because the flag came down at the end of Gerald's heat. So he'll have to wait with bated breath to see what the actual reason for the yellow flag is, and hopefully we have a fair cut here. I didn't see anything untoward, so we'll have to wait on the results. Here we go.
Unfortunately, we have a disqualification for a cut foothold.
Oh no, that is terrible. What an upsetting bit of news for Gerald. I mean, he cut the foothold, but that's in the rules. You have to make sure you cut in between the lines of the foothold. So unfortunately for him, that means a DQ and no points in this one for Gerald.
Bitterly disappointing there for Gerald on his maiden voyage with his first ever pro timber sports discipline. But good action here though, Troy. Good technique. You were pretty impressed.
Absolutely. I mean, it looked really fantastic. I hope we can actually see where he cut the foothold here, because I didn't see it in the live, but you know, maybe it was on the first side of his block, and when they made the inspection, they noticed a cut into the foothold. But nevertheless, it was an unfortunate situation for Gerald. On that side, the first side, I don't see it, so it must have been on the second side when he was facing the audience, but it was a very nice cut, all things considered.
Now we have our next two athletes ready. Onto the stands come Scott Folks and George Spencer. We're expecting big things from Scott. He's had a little break away from timber sports. George gave a great showing last year as a new rookie, came in second, and Scott himself is a previous rookie champ in Great Britain.
George came very, very close to getting the national record for stock saw yesterday, so we'll be looking for good things from him in that discipline later today as well. And there we see George getting a couple of practice aims in. I'm always so impressed how quickly these guys can get that axe back up and ready to go. And here we go for heat number 2.
Okay,
George
gentlemen.
Spencer, Scott Folks.
Athletes, ready.
Stand to your timber. 3, 2, 1, go!
All right, this is where it gets fun because we have the two guys on stage battling against each other. Now, this is not about elimination. It's about getting a good time. But because they're on there together, you get a little bit of that adrenaline flowing between the two of them. And right now, you can see George getting in there with some nice quick hits. Got a good pace there happening. Scott Folks looking good as well. George has moved over to the other side of his block already. Scott Folks looking a bit deep on the first side. Now he steps over gingerly and starts working on the second side. George definitely with the advantage here as he's gone through that first side quite quickly. Getting in deep, and here comes Scott trying to catch up with those big drivers into the block and get some big slabs out of there.
Yeah, Scott's always been impressive on the turn here, Troy, and he's making up good ground on George.
Yeah, he definitely is. I mean, they're coming close to getting through those blocks, a couple more drivers, and that should see that block from George split, and he's getting close. It might. Who's going to be? Oh, my goodness. What a comeback for Scott Folks as he came from behind and gets the win in the heat here against George Spencer, or George Lloyd, excuse me. Or George Spencer. Yeah, that was correct. There's too many Georges in this thing here. Well, great job, though.
Sir George, we call him backstage.
Sir George. Oh, my goodness. Knighted with an axe.
Knighted with a personal
okay,
best.
Congratulations. Both cuts are good.
So George Spencer gets a personal best of 58.06, and it's always good to see those improvements come for the guys. And our stage crew will get on the stage and clean up as we take a look at the slow-mos here. Look at that. George just driving heavy hits into that block. You can see those big slabs coming off the block, Alex.
I mean, you really appreciate when you see it in slow motion, Troy, just how much precision goes into every chop.
Yeah, it's very important. I mean, you can be accurate and have a ton of power, and that's going to get you through very quickly, but you can have a ton of power with zero accuracy, and you're going to be struggling with the thing the whole day long. But both of these guys really putting on a good show here, Scott Folks and George Spencer. Some impressive come from behind for Scott Folks. It wasn't his best time, but he did do a very good job to just sneak in there and get that split at the very end. And that could be the reason why right there. We saw George get his axe caught a little bit in there, and it takes a bit of time and a bit of energy to pull that axe out, especially when you're late in the heat and you're trying hard to get through there quickly, and it's just a really tiring situation.
Yeah, so as always now, our fantastic stage crew cleaning and preparing the stands for our next athletes to make their way on. And we do have them. Please welcome on Joe Groom and Os Williams.
So the axes and the athletes will come on stage, and we're just waiting on our blocks to get placed in there. You see Joe Groom and Osh Williams.
Yeah,
O'Shawn.
Yeah, Joe, 32, from Guildford in Surrey, a tree surgeon and a teacher. And he cites this one as his favourite event. He was 6th in our 2021 event last year, our championships last year. It was his first pro competition after being a rookie for a number of years. Os from Denbigh in Wales. He turned 40 last week. He's got the champagne on ice, though, till after today's championship.
All right, while these guys take time to get those blocks in place, we're going to take a quick look at some commercial action from STIHL. All right, so right now you see that the blocks have been placed inside those rigs that are on the stage. Now the rigs have these spikes on them on one side, and they're drilled in on the other side so that the athlete has a stable platform to stand on. And sometimes it does take a few minutes to get these things set up. The stage crew's job is to get up there, clean up all the dust and all of the small splitter pieces and bits of, yeah, we'll call it chunks of wood, actually, the way these guys are chopping out. And we're seeing now Joe Groom and Osh Williams getting ready to get into it on their underhand chop. So we are appearing to be ready. And we'll get going with heat number 3 with Joseph Groom and Ocean Williams.
Okay, gentlemen. Athletes, ready.
Stand to your timber. 3, 2, 1, go!
Coming from on high, Joe Groom just hammering away right away. Osh Williams had a great underhand chop in one of the demos yesterday, looking good now as well. And again, we ask ourselves, who's going to come around to the other side first? Will it be Joe Groom or Osh Williams? It's going to be Joe Groom. He moves over to the other side quickly and starts working with some big, accurate drivers into that second side of the block. But that doesn't mean Osh Williams is out of it here. As we've seen earlier on with Scott Folks, he came from behind, but Joe Groom's got a good solid lead. Osh Williams really trying to put some big slabs out of there, but it looks like a massive lead by Joe as he swings that axe through. Wow, That was great control from Joe Groom and a 41-46 personal best for the big man.
That was really impressive from Joe. He's started the day off extremely well there, like you say, Troy. Personal best 41.46. A great start for Joe.
Yeah, Osh Williams struggling a little bit on the second side here with some big sticks from that axe, and it's starting to wiggle now as he starts to get through there, but it's a tough one. And now, finally, that final driver and puts him, as you see the orange number 4 there, that puts him in 4th place overall in the standings after the underhand chop result is through. Osh Williams in 4th place in the underhand chop also. So that's our standings at the moment, with Joe Groom being on top with an absolutely blistering time of 41.24.
Okay, congratulations. Both cuts are good.
Now, when it comes to the points, Troy, it's a sliding scale. The top athlete in each discipline will get the full 12 points. And then it's a sliding scale down, 11, 10, 9.
Exactly right, yeah. But those points, this is where it gets interesting when we move into the second discipline, because those points start to change and the positions start to change around. And each guy has a discipline that he likes a little bit more. So somebody that is strong on the underhand chop may not be so strong on, say, the single buck or the stock saw. And we'll see the whole scale start to change a little bit. So you've got to be a really well-rounded timber sports athlete to be able to keep those points stable and steady throughout the entire competition. And there you can see the background and the absolutely tough people here in the UK or in the Great Britain, just enduring the rain as we go on here. It's just fantastic. We had bigger crowds today than we did yesterday during blistering sunshine.
They are hard people. I saw one man eating an ice cream 5 minutes ago.
Perfect. All right. Next up, Bill Hawkey going up against Terry Hoff, the Hoff.
And dare I say, the two elder statesmen of British timber sports. Yeah, Bill recently turned 60, ladies and gentlemen. And Terry, this is his 8th out of 9 timber sports championships. Great to see both these boys competing as pro athletes once again.
Okay, gentlemen. Athletes, ready.
Stand to your timber. 3, 2, 1, go!
Good start by both of these gentlemen. I was watching them during the demos, and I'm always impressed. We can't call them elder statesmen. They're still young at heart and still fit as can be. And look at this, Bill Hawkey getting nice and deep in there. Pretty tight wedge that he's got. He's going to try and get that a little bit wider on the other side. Who's going to go over first? As we see Terry Hoff getting a little bit of a stick. And Bill makes it about 2 strokes ahead of Terry onto the other side. But Terry's got some pretty good rhythm going as he's slabbing out nicely. Bill Hawkey still waiting for the first pieces to fall out of his second side, and they start to now. And it's going to be a close one between these two. And it looks like it's going to be Terry Hoff. Wow, what a great time. Top time of the day so far with a personal best of 38.60. He came from behind, coming around to the other side about 3 strokes behind of Bill Hawkey. Bill now really having trouble on that second side. Maybe he was a little bit too steep on his angles on the first side, but he's through in a 52.94. So a great job by the Hoff as he gets through in 38.60 and a personal best and takes over the top spot in the ranking.
Yeah, no hassle for the Hoff. Once again, he always puts on a show, as does Bill. Great work from both our athletes.
Okay, congratulations. Both cuts are good.
All right, great job by Bill and Terry as they'll move off stage. And yeah, that was a nice heat. I really enjoyed that one, and they really pushed each other through as well. But Terry, wow, that's the time to beat. And if you look at our scoring screen, after competition control had their hands on it, his time's been improved to 37.79. So again, those minute details are what's going to change the time and make them sometimes better.
Could mean for the big points. And despite the milder temperatures today as well, Troy, we've already seen 3 of our 7 athletes achieve personal best, which is a great start to any championship.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, we love to see those personal bests always. It means there's improvement through these guys in all ranks. And especially with these 2 gentlemen being on stage, you know, personal bests are always nice to see.
And Terry has been with Timber Sports now for the full 10 years. This is the 9th championship. It's to see Terry get a personal best is absolutely delightful.
All right, and you see our guys working on stage to get those blocks placed quickly. So, yeah, we've got our first few scores in, and it's looking very good so far, and the action is getting increasingly good.
Yeah, I'm really happy. It's a really solid start. Great action that we've had already here over in Malvern in Great Britain. Delighted to have you along with us for the ride. What's to come, Troy?
Well, I mean, we've got 3 disciplines in the first round, and after that first round, the bottom 3 athletes are going to drop out. We're going to take the top 8 and move on to the second round. In the second round, we'll have the single buck and the springboard, which is a very challenging pair of things to do. In particular, the springboard, we'll see that a little bit later on. And then from that round, we're going to drop 2 more athletes out and go with 6 into the final round, where we have the Motor Mania Hot Saw for all of you petrol heads out there. And it's about the loudest thing you're going to hear on this area at all today. It is absolute maniac how loud those things get. But first of all, we've got to get through this first discipline here, underhand chop, and then we're going to move on and see where our points take us after that. And the next heat coming up has one of the favorites here today with Glenn Penlington, so it should be interesting to see how he does.
Yeah, this is Glenn Penlington, 31 years of age, from Knighton in Wales, builder by trade. He's been chopping since he was 15, and he was second last year in our British Championships of 2021. He has the bit between his teeth.
Yeah, it's his chance to really get an opportunity to go on to the individual world championship in Sweden. However, he's up there on stage with Graham Turner, who's no slouch. He's a big, powerful man with plenty of skill in this discipline. So it's about trying to get those points and get a quick heat, but also stay consistent, because you also want to make sure you try not to get any disqualifications along the way, because a DQ means 0 points for that particular discipline.
Yeah, this is one of Graham's favourite events as well. Graham from Pennychuck in Scotland. I mean, he's kept on his toes by the fact that he owns 6 Labradors, and he's actually qualified for the European Trophy as well this year.
Anybody who owns that many Labradors is okay in my books. There he is. So time to beat at the moment is held by Terry Hoff at 37.79, a personal best for him. So that gives these guys a target to look at when they get going here, and they'll step up onto their blocks and get ready to go.
Athletes, ready!
Stand to your timber. 3, 2, 1, go!
And right away you can see Glenn Penlington with a little bit of a quicker resonance in those drivers, but Graham getting right in there with them and starting to hit a little bit faster. And these guys are working through that first side quite quickly. You can see the difference here though. Graham has the power hits, Glenn working for a little bit of accuracy and speed. And wow, was he ever quick onto the other side of that block. He moved over like a jackrabbit running away from a dog. Graham right there with him. He's getting a little bit over to the right side of his block, though, as he starts to increase the pace here. Now, this is interesting. Both of these guys getting in sync as they step down. Oh, and it's Glenn Penlington in a fantastic time of 34.75. Graham Turner looking to get through that block as quickly as possible, struggling on the backside. He tried to pick up the pace, but now it looks like he's breathing heavy a bit with a time of 48.47. So Glenn Penlington moves to the top of the ranking with a great time of 34.75, and Graham Turner with a 48.19, currently sitting in 4th place in the overall standings. Nice heat.
Okay, congratulations. Both cuts are good.
I was a little worried for Graham there because it looked like his axe was drifting a little bit over to the foothold, but that meant that we're all good here with that thumbs up.
Yeah, as we saw there, Glenn Penlington moving to the top of the leaderboard with a full 12 points with a time of 34.47. Great family history and heritage with the Penlingtons, particularly in the chopping disciplines. Dad Bob recently retired from STIHL Timbersports, and in fact Glenn's sister Zoe became our first ever female Great British Champion yesterday, so making history with us here in Malvern.
Placing a little bit of pressure on him at the moment as well, yeah?
Well, this is the thing, you know, this is potentially Glenn's time to shine in 2022 after coming second, our runner-up in 2021. But one man who was second, best finish of second in 2019, Johnny Lewis. Johnny be good. He's performed at 8 of our 9 Great British Championships.
And he's got a fan club here.
He has got a fan club with him. And all the way from Bear Regis in Dorset, 36 years old, Tom Redmond, also on the stand.
And both of these guys have under 25-second personal best, so this should be a blazingly good heat today. There we see Tom Redmond. Couple of gentle giants on the blocks right now. Here we go.
Athletes, ready.
Stand to your timber. 3, 2, 1, go!
So Tom Redmond right close to you there. John Lewis on the far side, missing the hair. Throwing a little bit of poetry out for our fans in the audience here. And look at this, wow! John Lewis just jumped over like a jackrabbit as well. And look how quickly he's moving that axe. He's taking on that Australian style.
It's gonna go.
It's gonna go fast here. It's gonna be close as Tom Redmond trying to get through there. And it's a nice time by John Lewis at 26.66. That will definitely get adjusted. Meanwhile, Tom Redmond trying to get through, getting stuck with a couple of those big drivers. It's that same situation, you know, you get a little bit nervous, you get a little bit tired, trying to throw a bit of power into there, and the axe gets stuck, and that just makes it so difficult. Should be one, maybe two more drivers. There's just one driver for him. 51.55, sorry. 6th place in the overall standings right now for Tom Redmond. So John Lewis with an absolute blistering time of 26.44 takes over the top of the ranking here. So he's put the pedal down to the metal and thrown the gauntlet down against Glenn Pendlington here.
He did have 4 shredded wheat this morning and extra beans with his cooked breakfast, I noticed backstage.
Okay, congratulations. Both cuts are good.
You know what they say, beans are good for the heart. I'll leave it at that. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we've just managed to get through our first round. That is the underhand chop. Shortly, we'll take a look at the results from the underhand chop after the slow-mo here. And you can see those drivers going into that block. So accurate with those hits. Just absolutely fantastic. We're looking at John Lewis right there. And you'll notice these guys are wearing very, very soft shoes. You would think, oh my goodness, why would you want to not wear steel-toed boots? Well, the reason being is you need to have that flexibility on that block and the grip as well. But underneath, they do have safety socks that are made of chainmail. So if they do happen to impact their foot, there's no risk of cutting their toe off or something like that. So they are safe. That's the reason why, though, that they wear those soft shoes on those blocks.
Yeah, you definitely don't want to lose a toe.
No.
In the first discipline.
That would be an unfortunate situation there, to say the least. All right, so we've gotten our first discipline out of the way, Alex. We've seen some good heats, Glenn Pendlington and, of course, John Lewis, the top 2 guys right now in the underhand chop. So they're going to take away the top points at the moment, and that means moving to the next discipline, it's going to be key for these guys to stay consistent.
So here we go, a rundown of the points in the underhand chop. You've just witnessed our first discipline. Johnny Lewis takes the full fat 12 points with a time of 26.44. Glenn Pendlington with his rapid time of 34.47 takes 11 points. And then personal best for 3rd and 4th place, Terry Huff and Joe Groom. Graham Turner in 5th, he takes 8 points. Tom Redmond, you just saw in that final heat, he's in 6th. Bill Huarki with a shot of pink hair, which we'll come to later, 7th place. Scott Folkes, bit of a slow start for Scott, but he will come back strongly in the latter heats. He's in 8th. George Spencer, 9th, with a personal best, no less. Osh Williams in 10th, and unfortunately a DQ for the cut into his footholds for Gerald Lloyd. So no points, unfortunately, for Gerald.
Yeah, it's a bit of a bummer, but, you know, this is still wide open with 2 more disciplines to go in the first round. And our next discipline coming up is the stock saw.
The STIHL MS661CM stock saw is used in STIHL Timbersports as the ultimate test of operator skill. Designed for the toughest jobs in forestry, it produces approximately 7.3 horsepower, has a displacement of 91.1 cc, and weighs 7.4 kilograms. To ensure evenly and fairly matched saws, professional steel technicians prepare and test the saws before each competition. Stock saw. After the starting shot, the contestants have to cut 2 wooden discs, so-called cookies, within a 10-centimeter mark, one downward and one upward. The attempt is only valid when both discs have been cut off completely and within the marks.
Yes, very much looking forward to our next discipline, the stock saw. Once again, we'll have 6 heats. There'll be the first athlete taking the stand on his own. That'll be George Spencer. Troy, talk to us about the type of chainsaw being used in this particular discipline.
Well, as we just saw, and for the folks here that are local that didn't see the actual or hear the actual video, this is an MS661. Basically, the same saw that you can buy off of the shelf at your local steel dealership. There's been no adaptations to the motor at all, no adaptations to the bar or the chain. And here we go, George Spencer, who had a very, very good time. He said national record is 10.60. That's held by Elgan Pugh. And he was very, very close with a 10.99 yesterday. So let's hope that he has a good day today and can get himself a national record or even better.
Yeah, I was talking to George last night. He got himself to bed early, so he is well rested.
Yeah. Unfortunately, the personal best that we just saw of 12.67 was from an official
Warm up
competition.
your saw.
So we're going to be crossing our fingers for George here.
A chance for George to warm up his saw now.
Here we go.
Athlete, ready.
Stand to your timber. 3, 2, 1, go!
Wow, great quick start by George to get on top of that block to make the first cut. Let's keep an eye on the upswing here. Oh, the big wide cookie on the upcut though. Getting close to the top, and it's going to be a good time. It's a new personal best for George with an 11.31. That's been corrected quickly to an 11.21 from the CCC, the Competition Control Center. That's a nice cut by George. He's got himself a personal best, and right now he's atop the stock saw results.
Yeah, well done, George, and a nod from our judge, Andy. Gives him the all clear. Thumbs up to the cameras as well. To everyone around the world. And he's just going to take the official result from...
Okay, congratulations. The cut is good.
Nice. A personal best, that's always good to see. We say that often and every time. I like to watch George around the compound a little bit as well. He's a very mental kind of athlete. And I don't mean that he's crazy. I mean that you see him actually doing practice swings as he walks through the compound. It's almost like he's flowing to music, but he doesn't have headsets or on anything. If we look at this first cut here from George, really nice cookie, super even, super centered. The second cookie was a little bit wide, and they say thin to win here. The reason is the wood doesn't bind as much if it's a thinner cookie, but he swung over and under a little bit far on that second one, but he was within the 10-centimeter mark. So the cuts was good. He had 2 good cookies on the deck, and so that makes him safe with a personal best.
And the wood, Troy, is all important in our events. Poplar is the main wood that we use for STIHL Timbersport Series competitions in Europe, with white pine commonly used most for like the single book events. But the quality of the wood today, how's it looking? What are the athletes saying about it?
Well, everybody said it's pretty good, so I don't think there's any complaints. But at the end of the day, they're all getting the same wood, so there's nothing to really to really fight about. Everybody's got the same conditions.
Okay, here we go with our next heat. And onto the stand we have Bill Huaki and Gerald Lloyd. Yeah, just a word on the shock of pink hair that you see on top of Bill's head. A show of solidarity, a show of support to some of his friends who unfortunately are suffering with cancer right now. So Bill has a heart of gold and he's looking out for his buddies.
Okay, gentlemen. Warm up your saws!
Now the reason behind warming up the saws is to get the saws started and running, a couple of quick blasts on the trigger to get that motor warm. Then they'll put them back on those specially designed rubber pads that are on the floor. to have the saw in exactly the right position to make sure it doesn't hop away from them like it used to in the old days. And now we'll get going with the heat. Here we go.
Stand to your timber. 3, 2, 1, go!
Oh, good start, but a bit of a cutout by George Lloyd there. He had to reset. That means Bill Hawkey has an advantage going on to his cut-up. And now here comes George Lloyd trying to catch up from behind. Bill Hawkey, it looks like he might have had a cutout as well in his second cut. We're going to have a look at this a little bit more closely. When the judges get in there and check those cookies, you can see Bill Hawkey is upset, though, as he took a fairly wide second cut and didn't have any room to make a third cut to get a fair cookie. And there you see the flag on the play and an incomplete cookie. That is going to be a disappointing result for Bill.
Yeah, you'd have thought as well with Bill's experience.
Okay, unfortunately we have a disqualification for cutout disc. However, this cut is good.
And that's really heartwarming as well for Gerald. His debut at Timber Sports, Troy.
Yep.
The 45-year-old farmer from Knighton in Wales, particularly in British Timber Sports, the Welsh guys bringing the big tradition, the big experience to our event. So it's great to see a debutant here as we continue that heritage.
And we take a look at Bill's first cut here. He had quite a wide cookie. Didn't leave him a lot of margin for error if he had a wide swing over. And this is what happened when he went for his second cut. He had to reposition that saw, and there you could see the cutout on the bottom of the bar, and he didn't have a clean second cut. And as he came to the top, the angle was so wide that, so steep that he didn't have any room left in that 10-centimeter gap to recut. And you could see him looking at it and thinking about it, but then, you know, there was no chance for him at all.
Such fine margins, no room for error. And you lose points in an event, is it easy to claw them back up? We've got Bill have 4 more disciplines after that. Everything can change, like you said, though, Troy, when you look at those leaderboards.
Yeah, that's
later down the
true.
line.
That's very true. It's still to play for here, so there's plenty of room. There's mistakes going to be made by everybody. We just have to try, like I said, to be consistent, as clean as possible.
Okay, we have our next two athletes. Graham Turner, the proud Scot, who is joined on the stand by 29-year-old Scott Folkes.
Scott Folkes was
from Knighton in Wales.
Scott Folkes was British rookie champion a couple of years ago, wasn't he?
Yeah, correct. 2016. He was 4th in his last appearance in 2019.
Okay, gentlemen, warm up your saws.
So Scott Folkes could theoretically be that dark horse today to really challenge for the top spot. He's shown a lot of potential and a lot of very, very good skill. So let's see how he does here against Graham Turner in the stock saw, excuse me.
Athletes, ready!
Stand to your timber. 3, 2, 1, go!
Oh, very nice start by both of these guys. Check out the style from Graham Turner. Oh, he's got a very thin cookie. He's cut himself out. He's going to have to rethink this and go back and cut a third cookie to get a fair cut. He knows it. He's got himself set up. But Scott Folkes with a great time. 12.68 seconds. That puts him in second place at the moment in stock saw results and moves him up to second place in the overall standings as well. Graham had a bit of a problem with that first cut. He cut out and realized it. Good job by him to realize it. He got the nod from Andy Hall, so that means the cut should be good, but he wasted a bit of time cutting a third cookie to make sure he had 2 on the floor.
Congratulations. Both cuts are good.
That's pretty amazing if you think about it, to a time of 17:77, having to cut a third cookie. So he would have been quite fast without that third cookie having to be cut.
Yeah, if you look at Scott's time there, 12.66, an average time of, say, 6.5 seconds per cookie. So for Graham to cut a third, like you say, Troy, with a, 4.77 seconds to spare, that's great work.
All right, let's take a these slow-mos here. And it was just the angle of the saw by Graham that caused him the problem. You could see the blade of the saw, or the bar of the saw, cut out the bottom. He realized it, though, which was good, so he made a thin cut on his second cookie, went back and recut the third cookie. You see Scott Folkes there with a nice, clean finish. And here you see it again. The angle was just a little bit off, and that's a bit of an unfortunate situation. Okay, I lied. It's a bit of a thicker cookie than I thought, but you see his angle changes a little bit, but he had enough room at the end, and this is the problem that Bill had earlier on. He didn't have enough room to cut a third cookie, and even though he knew he had to cut one, he just couldn't.
I think Graham's a big bloke anyway, but it's quite a tall stance he has. I noticed with Scott, it's the back leg comes out, and he's got more of a pivot to go with.
Yeah, that's for sure.
All right, heat 4. Keep your eyes on the national record of 10.6. Up to the stand, we see Terry Hoff, his PB 11.45, and Joe Groom, who was competing for the first time as a pro last year, so getting vital experience under his belt. That said, he will want to rise up that leaderboard. Terry's best ever finish was last year with a 5th place finish when we were over in Telford.
It's looking very good here today. 3rd in the
Okay,
underhand
gentlemen.
chop. He's got an opportunity
Warm
to
up your
really jump up the
swords.
standings here.
Athletes, ready!
Stand to your timber. 3, 2, 1, go!
Oh, great start by Joe Groom. Terry Hoff had a bit of a grip miss and got a bit of a late start, but he's got that first cookie down before Joe Groom, struggling a little bit on that upcut as he saws it back and forth to try and get a clean cut. Joe Groom with a personal best of 12.46 and Terry Hoff with a 12.78. That puts him into 2nd place in the overall standings and 4th in the Stocksaw results. That was a nice cut, though. That 2nd cut by Joe Groom was blisteringly fast.
Okay, congratulations. Both cuts are good.
So Joe Groom moves to the top of the leaderboard and 2nd place in Stocksaw with a time of 12.33, a personal best, only 1.12 seconds off pace here. Great job.
I think Terry's going to be a little disappointed though, Troy. He started off like a house on fire after the first discipline, but when it came to the Stocksaw there, just got caught a little bit on the time front.
Yeah, it was just a bit of a jump to get on there, and you could see that 2nd cookie was quite wide. Oh, and I didn't notice that, but his chain actually stopped. This is where the technique of using these saws is so critical. You can't overpressure the saw, otherwise it'll bog down and the chain will stop, and that causes problems. So I'm pretty sure that's where the time delay was for Terry. A lot of the athletes will also talk about listening to the saw and hearing it sing, and they know exactly how these machines work under pressure.
Heat 5 here at our STIHL Timbersports British Pro Championships of 2022 in Malvern. Tom Redmond now and Glenn Penlington. So Tom Redmond featured at his first champs last year and came 3rd. What a start for him. So if he can improve on that.
Yeah, he seems a pretty relaxed guy on stage, not putting a lot of pressure on himself.
Okay, gentlemen, warm up your swords.
He did also say that he was gassing Glenn a little bit to put the pressure on him, so who knows what kind of mind games are going on backstage between these two guys, and now they're on stage against each other in the Stocksaw.
Athletes, ready!
Stand to your timber. 3, 2, 1, go!
Oh, great start by Tom Redmond. 2 different style of angle here as Glenn Penlington gets deep with the front of the bar, and it's going to be a close one as they come through the upstroke. Tom Redmond looks like he's got a good cut, an 11.09 personal best, and Glenn Penlington with an 11.96, and both of them move up to 2nd and 3rd places respectively on the Stocksaw results. Good results for both of these guys and keeping themselves in the mix in the overall standings, as Glenn Penlington now has 21 points in total, and Tom Redmond sitting in 3rd in the overall standings with 18 points.
Both cuts are good.
So great job there. You could see on the orange field with the white number, that's the overall standings, and the orange field bottom of the name bar with the black number, that's the result in the discipline. This is a good cut by Glenn Penlington, though, nice and thin.
Tom got straight to it, straight on the water as soon as the gun went.
The only thing there is that bottom swing, he let it push through a little bit too far, and the swing was a good 3-4 centimeters away from the block, and I believe that Tom was just a hair quicker on the upcut, but it was a very tight heat between these two guys.
Hope that gentleman isn't stuck.
There's a great view from the Ferris wheel to watch the action here on the main stage.
The final heat in the Stocksaw, Heat 6. Osh Williams and Johnny Lewis, all the points to play for.
The question I have here is, why so serious?
Well, Osh is taking this extremely serious this year. He has a steely determination the whole weekend we've been here so far.
He does.
He means business. And it was Osh's first competition at pro level last year, so he's looking to make those improvements.
Okay, gentlemen, warm up your swords.
Well, both of these guys have been looking really good in the demos we've had here all weekend long, so looking to see some good times from both of them. Remember, the national record for Stocksaw is 10.61.
Athletes, ready!
Stand to your timber. 3, 2, 1, go!
Oh, great start there by John Lewis. Look how thin that cookie is. That is just fantastic. Osh Williams also with a great thin cookie. On the upstroke, it's John Lewis with a clean cut. Osh Williams with a 12. Both of these gentlemen walking home with personal bests in Stocksaw. That is a great job. How close was that, Alex?
Unbelievable. And yeah, once again, love to see the PBs dropping. That's another 6 out of 11 athletes taking away a personal best. Great work.
That was a nice heat between these two guys.
Okay, congratulations. Both cuts are good.
And even someone as experienced in a season as Johnny Lewis getting a personal best of 11.69. He's been doing this particular discipline for years and years, Troy.
All right, we're going to take a look at the graphics here for the Stocksaw. George Spencer with the fastest time of the day at 11:21. And then John Lewis right behind him in 11:69. Tom Redmond not that far behind in the third with an 11:77, and Glenn Pendleton with 11:90. And that means there's going to be a bit of a shift in the overall standings. This is what we talked about, because now we see that in the overall standings, John Lewis, who just cut the second fastest time in Stocksaw, moves to the top of the leaderboard.
Yeah, and it is Johnny that sits proudly on top. He will move up to top position with 23 points overall. So it's a cumulative over the course of the disciplines. Glenn Pendleton second with 23, hot on his heels. Third place, Tom Redmond, fairly new to timber sports. He's in 17th place, pushing hard. Fourth place, another gentleman who steps up from the rookie circuit to the pros, Joe Groom. He's tied for fourth with George Spencer, another of our newbies. Sixth place, Terry Hoff. Like I said, he will be disappointed with his performance there in Stocksaw. We'd expect more from Terry, but he will come good, as will Graham Turner. He's in seventh, along with Scott Folkes and Osh Williams, all sharing 11 points. And Bill Huarki in 10th with the unfortunate DQ. And Gerald picking up his first points in that last discipline. He's now in 11th place.
So after the next discipline coming up, we're going to eliminate 3 athletes from the list. So now it's critical that we get into the standing block chop. And in order to have a good standing block chop, you need some good wood. And we do have premium competition wood here at STIHL Timbersports.
We have a premier competition. We need premier wood.
What we are looking for is consistency, which means we need to make it fair for all athletes.
Once the trees are transported to our facilities, we measure, mark and then cut the wood into sized blocks. After careful selection, the blocks then leave our yard and are distributed internationally to our STIHL Timbersports competitions.
Welcome back, folks, to the STIHL Timbersports Great British Pro Championships of 2022. We're here in Malvern. The weather's not particularly great, but we're still happy, aren't we, Troy?
Absolutely. No doubt about it. The fans that are here as well, they're braving the weather and it's looking great.
Yeah, there are people eating ice creams in T-shirts and shorts, would you believe? Now, the events come thick and fast. The disciplines continue to roll and drop. We are up next with the standing block chop. Let's see what it's all about.
Standing block chop. At the standing block chop, the felling of a tree with an axe is simulated. A vertically positioned wooden block with a diameter of 27 centimeters has to be cut through from both sides. A powerful and precise swing with the axe is the premise of a good result.
All right, we're ready to rock and roll with the standing block chop. Once again, 6 heats. Our first athlete will take the stand on his own. That'll be Osh Williams. And then we rattle through. This is an original timber sport, the standing block chop. As you've seen there, it simulates the felling of a tree. And it's to get through it as quickly as possible from the side, Troy.
Correct. It's like chopping down a tree. It's where the original Benton that started timber sports in the day. So we'll get a little bit more information on that later on. But in the meantime, there's Osh Williams getting ready. His personal best, 45.56. However, I do believe we did see faster times from him in the shows yesterday, but because they're not official, they don't get counted, which is a bit of a bummer, actually, because we saw some great times fall with the guys yesterday. So hopefully he'll have a good run here today in standing block.
Yeah, and hopefully our crowd here in Malvern can get right behind us and all our athletes.
Okay. Athlete, ready.
Stand to your timber. 3, 2, 1, go!
So the first drivers have to be from the bottom. That's part of the rules here, and that's why you see him set the axe in at the bottom 2 times, and then he starts working through that angle. You can see the markings on that block as well. That's just a guideline for Osh to see when he needs to complete the cutting on the first side and switch to the other side, and you'll see him go around now, and he'll start working on the second side of that block. Some nice drivers going in there as well, slabbing out nicely. This could be a good time and may well be a personal best if he keeps hitting this well. He's got some great slabs coming off of that, and he's not that far off here. So let's see if we can get it through. I started seeing that thing get a little bit loose on top. It could be a couple, 3 drivers to get him through, and hopefully he'll get it in a good time. Oh, he's got a couple of sticky ones there, though. That's caused him problems, and it's not going to happen in this case. So a 50.86, so not the way that Osh wanted to have that, and it was looking so good at the first side, and it just got a little bit sticky on that second side, but he was nice and clean through, and he should have a thumbs up from Andy Hall, our head judge on stage today.
Okay, congratulations. The cut is good.
Just shy of a PB right there for Osh as well, but he won't be disappointed. He's back for his 2nd ever Pro Championships with us and making great strides.
Yeah, you could see these drivers that he was putting in there. He was really well targeted, really good power, maybe a bit too much at the flatter angle, and that's what happens to get the axe stuck in the wood. Just on the second side here, he looked great at the first few hits. The slab started coming out nicely. And right there you can see a nice big chip come out. He was really putting everything he had into it. Look at the eyebrows. They're just up above his hairline as he's really focusing on those hits. And there you can see the axe getting stuck in that. Final driver knocks the block off. And yeah, like I said, not the fastest time that he wanted to have. And there, what you saw there is the skip. The axe skipped up and got caught in the block a little bit. And basically what that means is the angle was a little bit too steep. So there was a couple of small things in there, but those are things that he'll definitely take to the bank. He'll go back and look at slow-mo replays of these and go, okay, I need to change this, I need to change that, because these guys are really technical that way. But all in all, good finish there for Osh Williams with a 50.56 after adjustment. Okay, we continue with our next heat, Heat 2.
which sees Gerald Lloyd from Knighton in Wales. Gerald's a farmer. He's making his debut at the British Pro Championships this year. And George Spencer. George, 26 years old, a forester from Hereford. Again, another debutant here. He was second in our rookie championships in 2021. You're going to have fun here, though, with Gerald and George on stage. Two real performers.
This is all that mental game that George has been preparing himself.
Athletes, ready!
Here we go.
Stand to your timber. 3, 2, 1, go!
Good pace right away by George Spencer. Gerald Lloyd just trying to get in there with some heavy drivers. Look at that block move when he hits that thing. He is so powerful with those big hits. George on the backside is moving over to the other side of his block already. He's about 3 strokes ahead of Gerald. Oh, a big stick by Gerald though. And George is looking good as he's really accurate with those drivers. Some beautiful slabs coming out. Shouldn't be long now. And there it goes for George Spencer with a personal best 33.74. He's going to be super pleased with that. Gerald Lloyd, no matter what happens, one more driver here should do it, and that's going to be a personal best for him as well. So that is fantastic at the first time ever on stage, and some good times for these two gentlemen. George Spencer with the time to beat at the moment of 33.46.
And a little game of rock, paper, scissors there to finish.
Okay, congratulations. Both cuts are good.
Well done, well done.
I think that's the only competitive sport I would take on Gerald Lloyd at rock, paper, scissors and feel like I stood a chance.
Just as a reminder, this is the last discipline in the first round, so it's very important to get good, consistent points here because we will be dropping the bottom 3 athletes in the overall ranking after this and moving on to single buck and springboard.
Now, Troy, it's key and it's part of the discipline itself for the athletes to set the stands themselves.
Yeah, it depends on the situation, but in this case, yes, they have to set the stands themselves, and they take their own wood up and place it, but they'll also get help. You see Bill now is in there helping out to set up the stands, and there you see Scott putting in a block there. I mean, Scott's going to be competing in this one against Graham Turner coming up, and so he's placing the block, but Bill Hawkey was helping set up the other 2 blocks from heat number 4. So yeah, these guys are putting their own wood in. We did talk to one of the guys earlier. I believe it was the Hoff who said he just didn't put the strap around properly, and when it was one of the demos, so he'll remember that, come back and make sure that strap is on correctly for the actual heats here as the guys set up their blocks.
I love how we're now referring to Terry Hoff simply as the Hoff.
I love it. I think it's fantastic. Yeah, because in Germany, David Hasselhoff is known as the Hoff.
He is here. He is in this country as well. He's, you know, but I'm glad to say we've now got our own Hoff.
All right, so in the meantime, while these guys are setting up the stage, it's a great atmosphere here. The people are out in droves even with the rain. That says a lot about the folks here. But it's not just the folks here, it's timber sports fans worldwide. They just provide a great atmosphere. Let's check a little bit about that out.
It comes down to Mitch Argent and Shane Jordan.
Battling hard on the standing block. Who is it going to be? Is it going to be Australia or New Zealand? Oh my God, how close is this? And it's Australia!
The atmosphere last night and the team's relay was unreal.
That is their title of Team World Champion 2 years in a row.
Oh, definitely. It'd be the noisiest crowd I've competed against.
Shane Jordan's already over there.
Yeah, I'm actually kind of getting goosebumps thinking about it right now.
The crowds here, they were just erupting.
You feel the energy of the crowd.
My goodness, what a great comeback from Belgium with a time of 1.
The crowd was absolutely electric.
And it was so much noise and support.
Ja, doch, das pusht schon rum und mein Fanclub ist auch da.
Very passionate about their country and, yeah, their competitors.
Yeah, it feels super.
Oh my goodness, look at this.
It's pretty awesome to compete in front of a crowd like this.
But he's not giving up. He's looking good.
Like such an adrenaline rush. It's an amazing feeling.
They make a lot of noise, and that's good for our spirit. It's going to be the checker building, and the crowd goes bananas. It's absolutely extreme here. Man hört's.
Yeah, despite the rain continuing to lash down here in Malvern, Worcestershire, we have heat 3 of the standing block chop, and it's Graham Turner up on the stand with Scott Folkes.
Graham looks like he's going to stare that block to death. A couple of practice swings by Scott Folkes there. You can see personal best for him, 32.01.
Okay, gentlemen. Athletes, ready!
Stand to your timber. 3, 2, 1, go!
All right, Scott Folkes right there close to you. Graham Turner on the far side. Two different statures of men, both of them very excellent though. And look at the big slabs coming off of these blocks for both these guys. Graham Turner moving over to the other side about 3 strokes ahead of Scott Folkes. The power is there, the accuracy is there. Is going to get through it before Scott Folkes. Scott Folkes coming strong from behind with some good drivers there, some clean, accurate cuts. So you can see the grain of that wood. It is just running away from him here as Graham Turner's getting close to dropping that one, but so is Scott Folkes. It's going to be a close one here, folks. Graham Turner is almost there, but Scott Folkes beats him just by the hair on his chinny chin with a 34.81. Graham Turner with a 36.89.
Yeah, Scott's happy with that.
Yeah, that was a great heat. I mean, you know, he switched to the other side about 3 strokes behind Graham and
okay,
managed to come from behind.
congratulations.
It's a good job.
Both cuts are good.
Troy, at what stage do our athletes decide when they make the turn and go to the flip side of the wood? At what point is that?
Sometimes it's just about how they feel about the wood and how they've made the markings. So you can see all the markings on the wood. This is made by the guys, and they set that up for themselves, given that, you know, what they know about how the wood is reacting and what they know about how they chop. And also the axe that they're choosing to use for that day, because there are different angles of blade edge for the axes. You know, there are different styles of axe edges to make the cutting different based on the types of block.
Yes, this is now heat 4, standing block chop. Bill Huaki and Joe Groom, 2 big crowd favourites, taking the stand with us here at our British Pro Championships of 2022.
Scott Folkes, by the way, with a 36 even after adjustment, 2.54 off pace. In second place, though, in standing block chop, but we still do have 3 more heats to go with Bill Huaki and Joe Groom
gentlemen.
now.
Athletes, ready!
Stand to your timber. 3, 2, 1, go!
Bill just having a casual stroll around his block as they're starting to do the start run here. But, man, he got into it real quick. Some beautiful big drivers. And there you see Joe Groom. Also, some heavy hits there. Bill looking great on the other side at the first couple of drivers. But now he's got himself onto the other side of his block here. Aims up and starts hitting about 1 stroke ahead of Joe. Joe had a bit of a skip on one of his drivers there on his side, but seems to be back into the rhythm and flow here. So now it's going to be about who's going to get through that block first and what kind of a time we're going to have for these gentlemen. Remember, this discipline is the last one in the first round. So, oh boy, look at that, Joe Groom with a 36.87, puts him in second place in the overall standings and fourth in standing block. And Bill Hawkey with a 45.636 in standing block at the moment, 10th in the overall standings, and a big wave to the crowd.
Yeah, we know now that there's a rough 3-second time difference between the top athlete in this discipline and fourth place. So, yeah, getting quicker by the second.
At the moment,
okay,
we still have 2 more heats to go, heat 5 and 6. But currently, we haven't standing block. Yeah, we have. So Gerald Lloyd, Bill Hawkey, and are at the moment outside of the rankings to move on to the next round. Terry Hoff hasn't hit, though, in standing block shop, so that may well change for him. And we take a look at that final driver from Joe Groom, which was beautiful, putting him in third place. Here we go again. Wow, look at that, out to left field.
Now, we know full well how many axes these athletes own in their collections. They save the best ones, though, for these events.
Yes, yes, they do. I mean, we had discussions about this the other day with a couple of guys. They said, can't believe there are athletes out there that are using their competition axes for the demos, and one of them actually put a wave in their competition axe, so that axe is out of the running for any kind of competition here. So, you know, it's a very finicky choice, choosing what axes you're going to use for these competitions here and demos.
Yeah, we've got the stage being cleared, as you can see over my shoulder, being tidied up purely for health and safety and to get ready for the next discipline. Troy, how do you feel about what you've seen so far today here in sunny Britain?
Well, the action is hot and heavy, and it's going to be fantastic further on as we get into the next rounds and beyond. And, you know, I'm looking forward to keeping going here as we step into it.
Yeah, so we're back to it now with the next heat, heat 5 in the standing block. It's Johnny Lewis and Terry Hoff. Let's give it up for both our athletes.
Now, Terry Hoff is on the bubble at the moment, currently in position, let's see, let me check my screen here, in position 9. So if he has a good time here, he could move himself up into the top 8 and move on to the next round. He just needs to have a good cut, but what we've seen in the demo so far this weekend is he's been cutting very well, and of course, John Lewis is no slouch when it comes to this particular discipline.
Yeah, Johnny's in third, so he could be propelled up to top spots with a decent time in this discipline.
Yeah, he's very well situated at the moment.
Okay, gentlemen.
This could be make or break for time.
Athletes, ready.
Stand to your timber. 3, 2, 1, go!
All right, John Lewis getting right into it, focusing heavily on that block. almost trying to do the Jedi mind trick to make it jump off the top. But look at how well he's doing. Wow, he's quick to the other side at just after the 12-second mark. John Lewis not holding back at all. Terry Hoff about 5 or 6 strokes behind us. He moves over to the other side now. This is where fitness plays such a big role. Holy smokes, folks, look at that. A huge final driver from John Lewis at a 23.96, and that is the time to beat at the moment. Terry Hoff struggling on the backside here, and there it goes, start to wiggle and waggle, and it goes down into 36.13. So Terry Hoff is currently 4th in the standing block chop results, and that brings him up to 3rd place in the overall standing. So he is pretty much safe going on to the next round. John Lewis leading with 35 points at the moment. Good job.
Always good to see Johnny Lewis smile as well.
Yeah, I don't want to meet him in a dark alley when he's angry with me for eating his burger.
Okay, congratulations. Both cuts are good.
And John Lewis with a personal best there, so well done by him to move up to the top of the leaderboard once again. He's really thrown the gauntlet down today.
The standing block chop is one of the events, one of the disciplines that if you are looking to try out timber sports, it's one of the things you've got to cut your teeth in first to see whether you're a dab hand or not. But Troy, what's your advice to any aspiring new timber sports athletes who simply want to give the sport a go?
Well, there are options with STIHL that you can connect with your local STIHL distributor and find out more about the different camps that are going around throughout Great Britain, for instance. There are plenty of camps. They also do the same thing in Germany and in the Netherlands. So there are options for people to give it a try and give themselves a chance to maybe become a timber sports athlete. If you're interested, just connect with your local STIHL dealership, and the rest is basically money.
Now, speaking of prizes, all eyes on the prize. A trip for the winner of today's British Championships will be an appearance as an individual at the World Championships in Gothenburg in October. And one of those men could be making that trip to Sweden. Will it be Tom Redmond? Will it be Glenn Penlington? This is the last heat of the standing block chart. We're almost at the halfway stage of our British Championships of 2022.
So right now, Tom Redmond is on the bubble in 8th position there.
Okay, gentlemen.
Should be safe to move on to the next round.
Ready.
He just needs a good score here.
To your
and
timber.
of course, Glenn Penlington. Here we
3,
go.
2, 1, go!
All right, both of them getting into it right away. Tom Redmond on the right-hand side of your screen there. Glenn Penlington on the left. Well, now they switched it on me. Glenn, both of them looking very good. Redmond moving over to the other side of his block, about 1.5 strokes ahead of Penlington. Penlington now hammering hard. We know that he's got a good second kick, and he has that second win is very, very good. Redmond looking solid, though, as he's hammering away at that block. That salad on his head just shaking and baking. And Redmond stunning in a time of 26.73. That is a fantastic time. And that puts him in 2nd place in standing block chop. Glenn Penlington with a 30.35. And not the time that he was hoping for, but that's got him in 3rd place in standing block at the moment. So John Lewis still in the lead in the overall. Glenn Penlington and Tom Redmond in 2nd and 3rd places respectively. And that means we are going to lose Ocean Williams, Bill Hawkey, and Gerald
Both
Lloyd.
cuts are good.
We'll take a look at the standings here in a moment and confirm all of what I've just said, but that was a very, very nice heat.
Yeah, and Tom Redmond's performance there really has put the cat amongst the pigeons when it comes to the standings. It's halfway stage. We're going to look a little closely at the standings in a short while, but Troy, some real impressive shopping there from both our athletes, Tom and from Glenn.
Yeah, Tom was just about 1.5 strokes ahead of Glenn, and he had a great second side. Glenn, you can see he really got a big sticker there as he had that one final driver, and he would have been just a hair closer to Tom had that axe not stuck in the block. So that was an unfortunate situation for Glenn, but let's be honest, Glenn is a fantastic athlete, and he is in great standings here. So let's take a look at the results.
Yeah, always nice to see some PBs on the boards. Obviously, we've got some debutants this year as well, so they are their first ever times with us at the GB Pro Championships. We have a new leader now in first place. Sorry, this is the standing block chop results, I beg your pardon. These are the points as they're being dished out. So 12 points go to Johnny Lewis, 11 points to Tom Redmond. Glenn Penlington takes 10 of those. George Spencer takes 9. In fifth place on the standing block chop, Terry Hoff, he gets 8 points. Scott Folks posts a 6th place position in the standing block. He gets 7 points. Yeah, Joe Groom, 7th. Graham Turner, 8th. Gerald Lloyd, 9th. Bill Huarki, 10th. And Osh Williams, 11th in that discipline.
So let's see how that will affect the overall standings. John Lewis is on top. And there you see how it's going to make the situation change. John Lewis with a good amount of points. Glenn Penlington, let's see how that changes here. Just a second when they finally put those in.
Love the dynamic graphics there.
Oh, yeah. Stuff. And now here are the changes.
That's smooth.
And that means round 2 coming up, we lose Ocean Williams, Bill Huarki, and Gerald Lloyd.
Yeah, sad farewell to some of our guys there now. Troy, you've been all around the world with STIHL Timbersports, but you're here in Britain today. It's great to have you here as our resident expert.
Thank you very much.
Who have you been impressed with particularly so far at the halfway stage?
Tom, actually. Tom's been fantastic today. We knew he was good, but who knew he was this good, right? He's been very good, very consistent, and that consistency pays off by seeing exactly where he is in the overall standings in 3rd place. So he is in a prime position to strike for that top spot with 2 more disciplines to go, moving on to the 2nd round, and that is going to be the single buck and the springboard coming up. And those are 2 disciplines that could be a bit of a knick-knack change for these guys. And we also had some fantastic event yesterday. We had a first in British timber sports.
Absolutely, we made history here in Malvern yesterday with our first ever female pro championships, and it was Zoe Penlington who came out on top as the gold medal winner. Our first ever female athlete, well worthy of a round of applause again today. And it's her brother Glenn, it's all eyes on him this afternoon. Will he take the top spots for the first time ever in his timber sports career? So
let's take a look back at that from yesterday.
This is history in the making. Today, we'll crown our first ever STIHL Timbersports British Women's Champion. Hundreds of hours of training, determination, grit has led these athletes to this stage. This is their moment.
Stand to your timber. 3, 2, 1, go!
Nerves are on edge, the crowd roaring, the lights are all on them. It all comes down to these women and the wood.
Both girls are good!
They're all friends here, but they all want that inaugural top spot to secure their place in timber sports history. It all comes down to an underhand shot. This is epic, this is history, and the 2022 winner is Zoe Penlington.
I cannot believe I'm the first person to win the British Women's Championship. I really couldn't have done it without my family behind me, my dad and my brother training me. My mum is here in the crowd, she's just holding me together. And I just can't wait to go on to next year now and give it another go.
Yeah, fantastic to see Zoe making history with us here yesterday. We're moving things along here now with our men's championship, thick and fast. On to the next discipline, the single buck. So let's get under the skin and see what it is all about.
The 2-meter-long cross-cut saw used for the single buck discipline is made especially for competition. A series of consistently patterned 10-centimeter-long teeth are cut with a laser on one side of the saw and then hand-sharpened. Saw teeth are divided into 2 types, cutters and rakers, just like on the old-school saws. The saw weighs about 5 kilos and its base price starts at around €1,500. Single buck. The single buck is a one-man saw about 2 meters long. With this, the athletes have to cut off a complete disc of a 46-centimeter thick wooden block. The perfect interplay between rhythm and strength is the key to success.
Yes, so this is another leveler in terms of STIHL Timbersports events. Big points to play for, as always. This is the single book. 4 heats now, as we've seen. We've unfortunately lost 3 athletes out of our league table. And heat 1 will see Graham Turner up against Scott Folkes on the stand. Each of them playing for their best individual times.
Yeah, this is going to be the tell-all, this second round here with the single buck and the springboard. We have to get 6 athletes through this round into the hot saw, and the hot saw really is the make-or-break discipline. First heat up, though, Graham Turner going up against Scott Folkes, and these guys will be playing the Misery Whip, and hopefully it will not be playing sad music for either of them. We're looking for good times there. You see the world record is 11.58. Now, I will point out that the world record with, I just have to double check my situation here, single buck with no help is held by Pierre Puy-Barré from France, is a time of 11:58. We do not have a national record in Britain for the single buck with no help. So today we will crown a national record holder in this discipline.
Okay, gentlemen. Athletes, ready!
Stand to your timber. 3, 2, 1, go!
All right, getting started right away. Scott Folkes looking for those long, flowy moves, but he gets stuck 2 times now on the front push through. And meanwhile, Graham Turner is just rocking and rolling, getting towards the bottom. He's got a bit of a choppier, quicker movement in his saw, but it works for him, and he has a 17.97. That is the new national record that will stand for the moment. Scott Folkes struggling to get through that in a personal best of 27.12 for him, though, and that is fantastic to see those results coming up. So these are all results that are going to be personal best or national records, depending on how fast they are. And right now, Graham Turner can be proud that he is the current holder of a national record in single buck without any help.
Yeah, talking to the athletes, Troy, they said there's no better feeling in timber sports when you get the groove, you get that flow, and you're going right through the wood in the single buck particularly. It
is such a difficult tool to maneuver. Small angle changes will make it really,
congratulations.
really difficult.
Both cuts are good.
So big congratulations to Graham Turner and Scott Folkes as they'll head off stage, and we'll get our stage set up for the next heat between Joe Groom and Terry Hoff, and we'll take a quick look back at the slow-mo. And here you can see right away, Scott Folkes tries to get that saw moving with long, efficient strokes, but gets stuck twice. And that is such a bear to restart when you get stuck there, and it's so difficult. And on the other stand, you can see Graham, he was using quicker, shorter, choppier saw movements, so not as efficient as using the whole saw, but because he kept that saw moving and because it was moving quickly, it was to his advantage, and he got down to the bottom of that block a lot quicker than Scott Folkes did in this case.
Fascinating to see it in slow-mo as well, the slight lift of the saw to go back down. You don't really see that in real time.
No, you don't. And I mean, those small angles, and right there, that could have been a really damaging problem for Graham if he had peeled that cookie off and left a little tab, or as they call it, a tongue at the bottom of that thing. He would need to go back and recut that off. And with that long, really ungainly saw, it's difficult to do. All right, next heat coming up.
Yeah, big moments for both these athletes in this single buck. Terry Hoff looking to claw back some points, climb back up that leaderboard to improve on his best ever 5th place finish, which was last year. Joe, his first pro competition, was with us in 2021 over in Telford. He has switched his cap to the backwards, to the back of his head.
More
he is ready to go. He's looking focused.
There you see the Hoff doing a couple of practice strokes with the saw upside down so that there's no chance that he'll get dinged for making that initial slot cut deeper than it should be. All right, here we go.
Okay, gentlemen. Athletes, ready.
Stand to your timber. 3, 2, 1, go!
So it's all about technique now, Troy. Hips, stance, the full caboodle.
Yeah, you want to make sure you get that saw moving and keep it moving. It's almost like a dance with the saw, because the minute that thing stops, it's really difficult to get it started again. Terry Hoff looking really good, using the entire length of that saw. Joe Groom had a bit of trouble off the hop, but he's got the flow going now. You can see the angle is a lot steeper by Joe Groom as well. And there's Terry Hoff with a personal best 25.33, and Joe Groom with a 28.20 personal best, and Graham Turner still holding on to the national record. And I should point out too that this is single buck without assistance. So often you'll see the single bucker up there with another person on stage with a wedge and sprays that saw, with a lube to make sure that it doesn't bind to the wood so easily. So here, without assistance, there's nobody to do that. So there's a higher risk that the saw will bind on the wood on the way through. So you have to be really clear on all your angles.
Both cuts are good.
Without that assistance as well, Troy, does that dictate a slightly different approach to the angle that you're going to go in on, or not?
Not much, no. I mean, it's all personal preference here, and as you saw from that first heat with Graham Turner, he was very quick and choppy with his cuts. Imagine if a man with his power had a wider stance and just used a longer, flowier move, he would be through there in no time flat. You can see there, Joe gets a big bend in that saw, and that is a huge problem, because then it's like it just pushes you back, and then you got to fight to get it started again. Terry Hoff, with his experience though, just really excellent, using the entire length of that saw, cutting basically from tip to knuckles. And then finally Joe gets into the flow with it, and he starts using the entire length of the saw and using his power and his height to his advantage, and does a great job at the end of his run. It was just a little bit chunky at the beginning.
I'd liken that bend in the saw from Joe to running a 100-meter sprint and getting a slight tweak in your hamstring halfway down the line.
Or you have to run it in sand and the other guys don't.
All right, we're into heat 3 now of the single buck. Please welcome our athletes, George Spencer and Tom Redmond.
I'm a little bit torn on this heat here, because I watched both of them do single buck in the demos yesterday, and they were both quite excellent. George, though, has been ultra motivated, and as I said, he's been doing a lot of mental preparation, walking through the stands, you know, making chopping motions with his hands, standing there, moving back and forth with his upper body, you know, simulating the movement of the saw. What you'll also notice here is he's got a very, very thin cookie in the preparation. That's going to be an advantage for him in that it won't bind so easily, but if he gets to the bottom of that cookie and twists the saw even lightly, there's a very high possibility it could break off. So it's risk-reward here for George in this case.
Okay, gentlemen. Athletes, ready.
Stand to your timber. 3, 2, 1, go!
All right, choppy start for George Spencer as he gets into the flow and gets that thing moving. Tom Redmond right away with the power that he's got in his upper body. He starts with those big, long, flowy strokes, and he's going knuckle to tip, but he gets a bit of a hookup with an angle change, so he's struggling to get that thing moving again, and then both of them get caught up in a couple of times here, and it's, oh yeah, personal best 21.33 for Tom Redmond. George Spencer right to the bottom, and he did well to not break that cookie off. You started to see it wiggle a bit there at the bottom and separate as he twisted that saw out, but he did a good job to keep that thing safe. Oh boy, Tom Redmond there with a personal best and the second fastest time of the day with a 21.36, and that's been changed now to a 21.14. George Spencer with a very solid 26.06. So really, these guys aren't that far off of pace from each other, but right now, Graham Turner holding on to the record for today.
Yeah, we saw Tom get caught there slightly, but I don't think it would have been enough, even without that catchment, to have caught up with Graham.
Okay, congratulations. Both cuts are good.
All right, so the personal bests are dropping like flies here, but as I said, this is the first time that the British nationals are having the single buck without assistance, so they're going to be personal best for everybody no matter what time. So, you know, 8 minutes in, personal best. But, but you can see how thin that cookie is. Watch here as George gets down to the bottom. Okay, well, maybe not. Tom with a bit of a thicker cookie, so that was a bit of a bind for him right there as he changed the angle of the saw. And then at the bottom, he just started to really move it quickly.
and he got through there in a good time. So Tom Redmond in second place in single buck at the moment.
Now, final heat now, heat 4. As you've seen, we've lost 3 athletes, so we're down to the final 8. These are the 2 in the final heats of the single buck. It's Glenn Penlington and Johnny Lewis. Johnny used to own his own Portaloo business pre-pandemic, but he's now a machine operator on overhead lines. He's from Knighton in Wales, as is Glenn. Proud Welshman, both of them. Glenn's been shopping since he was 15 years old.
All right, there you see Glenn Penlington, 1.80 meters tall, whereas John Lewis is 1.95 meters. So here we're talking about 2 different heights of man. Yeah. So John can step well back from that block and really have a lot of power drawing through that, whereas Glenn will have to utilize as much of his skill in this system as he possibly can. Should be a good battle between these 2. Here we go.
3, 2, 1, go!
So John Lewis, you see him starting off with a couple of quick strides to get that thing going, but Glenn Penlington, wow, look at that boy go! He's got that axe or that saw moving quickly. This is going to be a close heat between these 2 men. Glenn Penlington getting close to the bottom. Oh, there you go. We got the new national record just dropped with 17.31 for Glenn Penlington, and John Lewis with a 21.20. And I'll tell you right away, you know, you're looking at the tall man versus, I'm not going to call him the shorter man, but the 2 different styles were completely different, and it made an absolute difference for Glenn there with a great time, and he holds the new national record for single buck without assistance. Well done for Glenn.
Okay, congratulations. Both cuts are good.
And look at the both of them breathing heavy after that. You know, that is quite the amount of work to get that saw moving and keep that flow going.
I know Glenn is an absolute all-round athlete. He's a keen rugby player. You've got everything moving there, Troy.
Yeah, I mean, we'll take a look back at the slow-mo here, but you can see there's a great view of it. Both of the guys are using the entire length of the saw, but Glenn just had a little bit more frequency in his strokes, a little bend there, but it didn't seem to bother him too much as he managed to get it going again. And John Lewis in the background started to tire towards the bottom of it, and his strokes became a little bit shorter. There you see, not using the entire length of the saw, but still a very respectable time for John Lewis, and sitting in 3rd place in the single buck standings at the moment.
Welcome back to Malvern, Great Britain for our 2022 STIHL Timbersports Great British Pro Championships. I'm joined now by one of our elite athletes, Glenn Penlington, who we've just seen go in the single. But Glenn, firstly about that particular discipline, I saw a little wobble partway through, but you maintained control. There was a fist pump at the end. Talk us through your discipline there.
Yeah, I had a little hang up halfway through. I was a bit disappointed with that, but I managed to get myself back together. I'm pretty happy to get the national record in that. You know, it's probably one of the events people used to write me off on. Solely where I used to lose all my points, so to get the win there and get the full points, I'm really happy with that.
Now, you've got your favourite event coming up right next, the springboard. You are our national Great British record holder with a time of 1.03. Will that be in your mind to beat that, or just go up there, go through the motions, get the big points on the board?
Yeah, it's always in my mind to try and beat that. I want to get below the, you know, the golden minute, as we'll call it. But, you know, I'm just going to go hard there. If I can get maximum points again, there's a lot of good guys out there. The guys have done a lot of work, a lot of improvement, so it's always going to be tough. So I'll give it my all for sure.
Now, you won't appreciate this, and I'm going to pile more pressure on you, but the pressure is on for you this year. You were second last year. The door is seemingly open for you to take the crown as our top athlete in timber sports. Have you got eyes on Sweden? Have you just got eyes on today?
Just got eyes on today for now. It's obviously it's a shame not to have Elgan here. You always want to beat the guy who won it last year, but hopefully he'll be back again next year. But for today, it's a focus on that. Try and get that top step on the podium. We've been trying for a few years now, so it'd be good to get it today.
Glenn, thanks so much for talking to us. Wish you all the best for the remainder of the championships, and all the best and fingers crossed for the rest of the championship. That's Glenn Penlington, ladies and gentlemen. He's going to carry on now in the springboard. That is our next discipline as we continue with the Great British Championships of 2022.
All right, well, we mentioned this a lot. This is the original extreme sport, and it all started with a $50 bet back in the day. So let's take a little look at the history of timber sports, the original extreme sport.
Expert woodsman who can cut down a tree more easily than most people can chop one up. When it really comes to tackling large lumps, you can't beat the men of the forestry companies.
An axeman's gathering. This is Thomas losing the ones that gets it. Look at this, Cormac is playing a great game of catch-up.
Yeah, welcome back, everyone. It's great to be here in Malvern. We're having a great time despite the lovely British summertime conditions. Now, we've seen some great disciplines so far. We are 4 disciplines through out of the 6. Some of our great athletes. Troy, I wanted to ask you, you know, you've been around the world with timber sports. Who have you got eyes on? Who stands out for you amongst our British athletes?
Well, as I mentioned earlier, I really like the way that Tom is performing today. I mean, he looks great. He's currently sitting in 3rd place in the overall standings at the moment, just behind Glenn Penlington, who you just had the interview with. Glenn, he has plenty of pressure on him, so we don't need to add any more.
Yeah, I felt a little bad doing that to him, but he's going to have to deal with worse than me.
And John Lewis, of course, you know, this guy's been around forever. He's at the top of the standings right now. He's got a bit of pressure now with the target on his back, with everybody chasing him as we head towards the springboard. But, you know, this all starts from an earlier time, and these guys have the opportunity to come through the ranks as rookies, and there is a rookie academy that these guys or young athletes can go to check out and become better pros down the road. Let's have a quick look at the rookie academy from 2022.
Today we are at Bart Jensen's training camp in Holland, rookie training camp.
It's a great experience because there are 3 national champions, Hans-Ove Hansen, Christoph Geisler, Martin Komarek, so it's fantastic.
I feel better prepared. It's nice to have 3 champions who he has for the training. Is think the best way to grow up and to do stronger and better.
The knowledge of the experienced athletes, that's the key how we can move the sport and the new generation forward.
There is a lot of good rookies here today. They are a little bit tensed, they are a little bit nervous, but the level is high. So I'm looking forward to see the competition.
I hope when the athletes go home tomorrow night, they are excited for the next competition. They had some experience this weekend. They learned special things about the wood and equipment, and they feel well for the real big competitions.
Yeah, so you've just seen there some of our rookie training camps which happen Europe-wide. If in this country particularly or anywhere else in Europe you want to take part and just try out timber sports, simply go to the STIHL website and look for more information. Now, here back in Malvern, we've just seen the culmination of the single buck event on our stage, and let's take a look at how the points have been distributed. So we just had an interview with Glenn Penlington. He took the full fat 16 points and posting a new national record with no assistance to add there. With a time of 17.13. Graham Turner, great points for him, 14 points. He takes second place. Johnny Lewis, Tom Redmond, Terry Huff, they take third, fourth and fifth respectively in the single buck. And further down the rankings, 6 points go to George Spencer, 4 points go to Scott Folkes as he makes a return to timber sports after a couple of years out, and Joe Groom taking 2. Let's see how that affects things overall now. Yes, so Glenn has been pushed down to second place with 46 points, and Johnny Lewis 47 1 point in it now between Johnny and Glenn. But don't discount Tom Redmond, 38 points still in there with a puncher's chance, and Terry Hoff and George Spencer again 31 points. It's all to play for, Troy.
Yeah, it's wide open at this point. There's still a chance going through the springboard, which is our next discipline coming up, as well as the hot saw, but you have to be in the top 6 to make it to the hot saw. Let's take a look at the tool and discipline here for springboard. Springboard. Springboard simulates the traditional way of felling trees, climbing up over thick roots. First, notches known as pockets are chopped into the log. 2 springboards are then anchored into these pockets. The athlete then climbs up to chop through a 27 centimeter thick block of wood in the fastest time possible.
Okay, folks, we are moving on through with our next discipline, the springboard. This demands precise technique, strength, and fine-tuned balance. And our competitors, and Troy will talk us through in a little bit more detail. They've got to set 2 springboard steps into the simulated tree and chop that top block off. Now, Heat 1 will be Graham Turner and Scott Folkes. Heat 2, Joe Groom and Terry Hoff. They need the big points in this one. And then it's George Spencer, Tom Redmond, and Glenn Penlington, who is our British national record holder in this event. He is the hot favourite going in Heat 4 against our leader today so far by 1 mere point, Johnny Lewis.
Oh, it's so close between these two guys right now. And, you know, Johnny Lewis is a big man. You would expect him to not do too well in a board discipline like this where they have to stand on a board. But we watched him do some of the springboard yesterday, and he is spry. So Glenn Penlington holding the national record for Britain. That doesn't mean he's going to hold on to it. I have a feeling he's going to do well today, but this is a key discipline right now for these guys.
Yeah, seeing how Glenn and Johnny went up against each other in the single buck, you're going to see similar matchup there. You've got the brawn, the might, the power of Johnny against the sprightly, stamina-fueled technique of Glenn going up that tree.
Yeah, I mean, we could have a surprise here as well. You never know. I mean, anything can happen. You could have a DQ for whatever reason going over time. There is a time limit for this discipline. It's also one of the most difficult disciplines to master, and that's why they've just started getting the rookies busy with discipline with only 1 board. Well, now these guys here are working on 2 boards, and that second board is a good 1.5 meters above the ground. So you have to imagine a guy that's 1.95 meters tall is almost 3 meters up with that axe, and that is a sharp tool. That's a sharp instrument that's in their hand, and they're that high up. You have to be confident in that second board. You have to be confident in your skills and your ability to be able to get through that top block from both sides, not just one side on that top board. So it's going to be a really interesting thing, and there's so many nuances that happen in the springboard. You just have to really keep a close eye on what's going on stage.
Yeah, and of course, Troy, they've also got the great British crowd to contend with
yes.
here today. The weather, the elements, and of course, they have the time constraints to contend with. Let's get on with the action anyway with Heat 1 of springboard. On our stage here in Malvern, please welcome Graham Turner and Scott Folkes.
You can see Scott's already got a personal best time locked in there of 2:01.65. Graham Turner has yet to log a time here, so we may see a surprise. And there you see the national record 1:03.83 held by Glenn Penlington. So he is the man to beat today in this particular discipline. Pressure is on, though, as we get ready for these two gentlemen on stage. Now, the optimal situation is to set a pocket with as few hits as possible. You don't want to waste too much time building your pocket and setting your boards. You want to spend the time up on the top board, that second board, way on high, and get through that top block. Here's Scott Folkes bringing those boards out. You can see those metal teeth at the end of the boards that are locked in place there. Those teeth will bite into the pocket that they cut, and you'll see that as we start getting busy with the cutting here shortly. And this is all about routine here. This is like, you know, it's like a hockey player. He always puts his right skate on first and then the left skate, you know? It's about their routine. They'll set up their boards exactly how they want them, exactly how they know where to put them to feel comfortable that they're putting them in, you know, in the same spot every time. So they have that routine. They have that feeling of confidence with their setup.
Yeah, again, much like many of our disciplines here with STIHL Timbersports, this is a real leveler. Big points up for grabs. The whole dynamic, the whole landscape of that leaderboard can change with one false move in this event. Plus, you've got the time constraints of 2 minutes 30.
2 minutes 30, yes, I believe so.
Yeah, and there's not many of our athletes that cite this as being their favoured event. I know Bill, who's sadly dropped out of the reckoning, he really prefers this event, as does Glenn. And it's one where we could see Terry Hoff get some big points back on the board. He really enjoys this event.
Okay, gentlemen.
It is a bit Marmite.
Athletes, ready.
Stand to your timber.
Yeah, you either love it or you hate it. Here we go.
3, 2, 1, go.
So here you see setting that pocket up, Scott Folks right now trying to get a quick pocket. Graham Turner also working on getting a quick pocket. The guys are already 6-7 hits in. Graham questioning his positioning of the pocket. Scott Folks still working on his first pocket. And now both of them seem to be pretty satisfied as Scott gets up onto his board first. That's not a bad board for Scott. Graham Turner not liking his pocket as he'll go back there and start to reset that. And this is a lot about experience, knowing what pocket looks good, feels good, and making sure you can clean it out with your hands quickly and get up on the board. Now you see Graham is on his board, but it is sagging drastically. He's not going to worry about that right now as he wants to get that second board in place and try and catch up with Scott. Scott, his second board doesn't feel right to him. He wants to reset that pocket. Graham's sagging board is not looking real healthy as he's walked up right to the front of the board, but now he's going to set his second board, and that one looks good and solid. So he gets up onto that second board now, and he'll put his back foot out as far as possible to utilize that power coming through his upper body and his core muscles and really try and put good drivers into the top block. Scott Folks is up there, but his board looks a little bit saggy, so that's going to take away a little bit of the confidence and the feeling up on that top board as he tries to clear away some of that slough. Oh, excuse me, that's Graham clearing away some of the slough there. Big slabs coming out, though, as he's looking like he's feeling okay on that board. Great position on Graham's board as well. You can see it's more or less parallel with the ground, so he's got a solid footing on there.
This is a discipline, Troy, where I feel like the viewing public as well really appreciate the skill, the technique, everything that goes into timber sports.
There's so much going on here. It's so dangerous because they're up so high with those axes in hand. If that board gives way and falls down, there can be major consequences. And that's why I say you have to be really confident in your pocket positioning. And that's why these guys took more time to get their pocket set. Now we're just passing the 2-minute mark, so they have 30 seconds time. And a big skip right there by Graham. He's trying to get that awkward angle on the backside of the block.
He looks close.
Should be able to do it. And this will be the first time that we'll score for Graham if he can get it done within this time frame here. Scott Folks struggling a little bit as he's still working on the first side. And one more driver should do it. Oh, he's got it stuck, and it's really going to be a problem as Graham Turner gets it done. They stopped the clock at 2:23:10, but I think that they're going to readjust that as Graham Turner's got a time locked in. Yep, there you go, 2:24:55, a personal best for Graham Turner. And that is a timeout for Scott Folks, who just burned a bit too much energy trying to get that pocket set and up on top. So that's going to be a DQ for him, which is unfortunate.
Yeah, really unfortunate for Scott. He's come back to the timber sports fold after a couple of years out, so just finding his feet, so to speak, back on that springboard.
Tough place to find his feet because he's been really performing well throughout the day today. But unfortunately, the springboard wasn't for him.
Unfortunately, we have a disqualification. We've run out of time. However, this cut is good.
Yes, we know that Graham is visibly delighted with that. We saw him do it in the demonstrations, but to get through and complete in style there,
yep.
Well done to Graham. He was 10th in our Pro Championships last year, so he's looking to build on that. He certainly will as he's into the mix for the final reckoning.
Yeah, he's done a great job here. That, like I said, it's a very, very difficult discipline to master. And for a lot of the pros that are in that pro division now and have been for a few years, they've had to master it over time with more or less on-the-job training. It's not like with the rookies now where they get taught and they only start with a single board. They've had to become good at it with 2 boards in that block. So it's a little bit harder for these guys now. But a great job by Graham Turner to get that first score down. A 2:24:55. I mean, he came close to being a DQ here.
I mean, there's so many satisfying moments as a timber sport athlete when you get things right, and we know from the single book saw, you find a groove and make strides with that. You're cooking on gas, but with the springboard, when you get up there, that final block chop, that's a sweet moment.
And I think you know it immediately when you get on that second board and you know you've got a solid stance. You feel good up there, and you think, okay, I can put my back foot out far on the end of the board and really push off that back leg to drive those drivers into the block. So here we go.
Yeah, let's move on now with Heat 2. Joe Groom and Terry Hoff.
So right now, Graham Turner's got the full 16 points, and that's how it works in round 2. In round 1, it's 12 points for the number 1 spot. In round 2, the number 1 spot receives 16 points. So you can really jump up the leaderboard with some good results in round 2 in the single buck and springboard. And there we see Terry Hoff. High concentration by him. I watched him do this the other day. He's very solid in this.
Okay,
discipline.
gentlemen.
His pockets are particularly very
Athletes,
quick. Here we go.
ready.
Stand to your timber. 3, 2, 1, go!
There's Joe Groom getting his first pocket set. You got to be really targeting well here, really accurate with your hits. And that is a beautiful pocket right there by Terry Hoff as he gets his first board in place. And that's a fantastic board. Slight angle gives him that option to really work that second pocket and not have to worry about what's happening on that lower board as he gets that second pocket set. One more driver should do it for Terry. And Joe Groom twisting out some of those extra pieces of lumber that are stuck in, and Terry Hoff at the 36-second mark is up on his second board and will start working on the top. Look at the slight angle on that board. It's not exactly parallel to the ground. It's got a little bit of an up angle, so when it does dig in and that tooth takes hold, he should have a very good position on board. Joe Groom also, that's a very nice board by Joe. Doesn't look like there's too much sag there. So here's the advantage for Joe. He's got power. He can really put those drivers into that top block. The thing here is, though, that Terry Hoff has the advantage of being up on the board about 7 strokes ahead of Joe. So that's going to be a problem for Joe. But, you know, the power is there. He's just got to try and dig through that first side as deep as he possibly can so that he can get working on that awkward backside angle. Meanwhile, Terry Hoff is very deep in his first board as we pass the 124-second mark. And he's working on the backside now, so these guys should both be through in a good time. You can see that really crazy backhand angle there.
Terry said this is one of his favourite events in timber sports as well, so he is doing particularly well here with the time approaching the 2-minute mark. And Joe...
Oh, wow, Joe Groom just hammered it away with a personal best in 144.22, and Terry Hoff has done it as well in a 151.84. Both of them well under the 2-minute mark, so great job by both of these guys. And Joe Groom, with the time to beat so far, moves into the top of the springboard leaderboard. Springboard leaderboard. There's a lot of boards in this board.
Yeah, big thumbs up from Joe. He's happy.
Okay, congratulations. Both cuts are good.
We may get a smile out of Terry. There we go. Thank you, Terry. He does still enjoy it after all these years. Keeps going back for more pain and punishment, but he is one of our top athletes, Terry, from Nethin in Wales.
And there you can see Terry repositioning on the backside. Now the difference here is that he repositioned his feet, but he had to choke up on the axe from that odd angle, and that's the weird thing on this particular discipline. Some guys will switch their feet and their hand positions, and Terry switched his feet but not his hand positions, so that's what makes it a little more difficult on the backside here. Now if you get a slow-mo of Joe Groom on the other side, he actually switched feet and hand position, and he was ambidextrous in the power, and that really was assisting him in getting through that as quickly as possible on that top block. So he did a really good job there, and that tells you there's a lot of skill with that man as our crew is out there setting up their blocks now and making sure that those get shifted at the top.
Hi, welcome back here to our stage at Malvern for the British Pro Championships. We are getting the stage set for the continuation of the springboard event. Now, Troy, it's waste not, want not, every single scrap of wood, we reuse it.
Well, yeah, and I mean, if you just saw that last picture from on high before we went into the studio here, but you saw there was tons of wood chip and sawdust all over the deck there, and all of that gets collected and swept into a large bin. That bin gets transported back to a treatment facility where it either gets used in wood chips for playgrounds or it's turned into wood pellets for furnaces and home warming and heating. So it is recycled and reused, and as we know that the trees are sustainably grown and harvested as well.
Yeah, let's have a look at that process from start to finish.
We as STIHL TimberSports pride ourselves that all wood is sustainably grown, harvested and recycled to minimise the overall amount of wood processed. Firstly, this popular wood is grown on certified plantations. Secondly, the white pine for our sawing disciplines is only sourced from certified forest management. After all our STIHL competitions, all the spent wood is collected and recycled right down to the wood chips and sawdust, which, for example, is converted into renewable energy in the form of wood pellets for biomass. We quest to find certified partners. This ensures that all newly planted trees are nurtured and managed, promoting maximum efficiency and sustainability for the future conservation of our valuable forests.
Therefore, as you can see, with good harvesting practices and good management with silviculture, the ground is quickly replaced by new trees or could even be used for arable for farmers and future rotations.
Now, we are active and live across all social media platforms, and if you are watching us today, you want to share your memories, share your thoughts, share your comments, do add the hashtags in. I've got to be careful how I pronounce this. Kiss my axe. So, yeah, go ahead with the hashtag.
Kiss my axe.
Yes, thank you, Troy, for the backup. Yeah, and also, yeah, we are on social media. This is live as we go. This is live TV.
If you don't want to risk hashtag Kiss My Axe, you can also go to hashtag STIHL TimberSports or hashtag TimberSports. So those are good as well.
Yeah, now we have the next clip for you, which is a little look at the World Championships in Gothenburg.
Tickets are still available.
Yeah, we do have a World Championships happening in Gothenburg, I assure you. Slight technical difficulties there, but yeah, that's on the horizon, Troy, and that is the ultimate prize for our top athlete on today's stage, isn't it?
That is. So the top athlete today will have an invite to the individual World Championships in Gothenburg that's happening in October. In the meantime, between now and then, there are still quite a few national championships, but today we're talking about the British National Championships in STIHL TimberSports, and we're still fairly close to getting there, but we got a couple more heats to go still in springboard, and then the make or break discipline as we know it is the hot saw.
Yeah, this is the business end, and it's all to play for. Now, we did make history here yesterday in Malvern with our first ever, we are so proud and delighted to tell you that first ever British Female Championships was on this stage behind me, and we had a new women's champion in Zoe Penlington, so we're extremely proud, delighted to have brought that to the British stage. The stock saw, sorry, the hot saw, in fact, is our final event here for the men's Pro Championship, and that is going to decide who is going to be crowned our champion today. And it's tight at the top.
Very.
We have Tom Redmond pushing, we have Johnny Lewis pushing, and we have Glenn Penlington pushing for that crown, Troy.
Yeah, we do, and if I look at the points on our screen here, Terry Hoff, who had just competed in the springboard, now has 45 points. Glenn Penlington is just ahead of him with 46 points, but he has yet to do his springboard, so that could very well give him some points. And John Lewis also not done his springboard yet. He is at the top of the leaderboard with 47 points. Graham Turner, who did do his springboard, is down there in 4th place with 42 points. So there in among the 40s at the moment, with a couple of guys still to compete in springboard. So this overall standing is going to change. And remember, we're only taking 6 athletes into the final round in the hot sauce. So right now, it's about getting as good and quick a springboard as possible to get through to the next round.
Troy, do we lose any more athletes as we go to the hot saw as well? Because we're now currently on 8 athletes on the leaderboard.
We're going to lose
2.
2 more athletes before we move on to the hot saw. And the hot saw, it's anybody's game there because there are 18 points to be had. And that can change from a first place athlete becoming the last place athlete. So it is the make or break discipline, but we got to get there first.
Yeah, and just to put things into perspective with the hot saw, it is every split second counts. The British record, incidentally, is held by 6-time champion Elgan Pugh, who posted a time of 7.47. But the world record is even quicker than that, isn't it?
4.85, if I remember correctly.
I knew you'd knew that without looking at paper. That's why he's our resident expert. Now, let's have a look at last year's British Championships with some highlights.
Welcome to the 2021 STIHL GB British Championships. Things are really heating up here. That is absolutely fantastic work. Seriously impressive performance right there. He'll be pleased with that. Wow, that is mega. Great to see some real competition here. What a competition, what a bunch of athletes. This is what it's been building up to. Sensational scenes here. He's done it once again. Our British champion, Elgan Pugh.
I'm really happy to win the 2021 STIHL Timbersports British Championship. And next year, I'm definitely going for the 7th win.
Some memories there of last year's 2021 STIHL Timbersports Championships in Great Britain. Behind closed doors, sadly, in Telford, but nevertheless, great action. And that's carried on very much the theme today here in Malvern, despite the damper conditions than we were hoping for. But Troy, you've been impressed with what you've seen so far from our British athletes.
Absolutely. It's been fantastic action so far. Still more to come with 2 more heats in springboard to go. And we're going to dive into the next heat right now between George Spencer and Tom Redmond.
Yeah, we're ready to get back underway with the springboard. The stage does take a bit of setting, so hence the delays. Here we go, though. Heat 3. Thanks for your patience here, people of Malvern. Please welcome onto our stage George Spencer and Tom Redmond.
George Spencer doesn't have a time locked in yet, so this will be his chance to get a personal best locked in there. Tom Redmond, meanwhile, does have a personal best that's just over the 1 minute mark, so he could be a guy that's going to really challenge for the top spot in the springboard today. There's lots of setups going on stage at the moment, making sure that all of the bits and bobs are correctly lined up for each of our athletes to come out and feel comfortable. Like I said, it's all about habit and routine for these guys as Tom comes out on stage now. Keep teasing Tom about his hair. He's got the best hockey hair in all of Britain.
Yeah, you keep calling it salad, don't you?
Yeah.
What's that about?
It's a nickname for long hair. It's salad. You got a real head of salad on you.
I mean, it does look like there could be all sorts in it. Not that we're commentating on people's hairstyles now. This, you know, this is taking a new turn for me at STIHL Timbersports. But, my card's marked anyway now from Tom, so I'll have to get him a beer later.
But only after the competition's done.
Of course.
There we go. George setting everything up. I'm really curious to see how he does here today, because what we saw from him in the springboard earlier in the demos was quite impressive. So hopefully we'll have an impressive run from him today. He's very, very, very motivated. He's all steel and will here. So let's see how he does against Tom.
Yeah, not forgetting it's George's debut in the Pro Championships here at Timbersports, and it's only Tom's second ever outing, and he came third.
Okay, gentlemen, athletes ready.
Stand to your timber. 3, 2, 1, go!
All right, here we go. Tom and George getting into it right away with some nice, accurate blows. George getting onto that board first up, but Tom Redmond was up there. Tom's got a great board. George's bottom board is sagging a bit, but he doesn't care about that. He just wants to get that second board set. Tom Redmond's getting his second board set. Oh, a little bit of a struggle to get that in there, but it looks like he's got a solid one now. So, oh, he's sagging. Oh, and it's gone on him. That's unfortunate. He's going to have to reset that pocket. That's exactly what you don't want to have happen. That's going to mess with your head a little bit.
It's going to cost valuable seconds as well.
Yes.
Can he recover, though? Can he recover, Troy?
And both of them seem to be struggling at that second board. Tom has to jump all the way down, replace that board along the tree line here so he can get back up. Meanwhile, George trying to get that second pocket comfortable for himself. And now we're passing the 1 minute mark here, so this is going to be a problem now. Tom's got his board in. That looks like a good board, but he's not feeling 100% confident. You can see how far forward he is on the board and not able to put in as much power as he would like, and it's starting to sag. George got his second board in now, and he'll start working on the top. George's board looks stable. He's got to feel good about it, though. It looks like he's okay with the first couple of drivers into that top block.
It's a precarious position now for Tom. All eyes as well on the time. They've got about a minute to go before the clock ticks down and the time has elapsed. And we don't want any DQs, Troy.
Now you can see on Tom's on the right-hand side there, that board is starting to sag, so he's stepped quite far forward on the board. That means he doesn't have the chance to give it the power that he would like to, and it looks like he's stepping down. He's going to redo the board again, and that's just going to kill his time even more. He's sweeping out some of the junk that's in there. Meanwhile, George is still trying to get through there, but this is a real problem for both of these guys, as it looks like Tom is going to try and recut, or is he going to give up the ghost here? Well, he realizes there's no chance for him at this point. That is unfortunate, because we know Tom can cut better than that. So for
Come on now, George.
About getting through that thing in the next 4 seconds.
This is on a knife edge. This is...
Oh, it's going to be so close. Oh, no! Oh. He was so close. That is just unfortunate. Oh, man. That is a tough one for both of those guys. And it was that first pocket for George that was a little bit ungainly, and then the second pocket for Tom, it just didn't feel good. And yeah, unfortunately, it was a no-go for both of them in this one, as they both get DQs.
Yeah, really unfortunate there for both of our athletes who had such promise going into that one. We had high hopes for them both, but they've still done themselves proud there massively.
Okay, unfortunately, both competitors are disqualified.
Yeah, we're just hearing that George was 0.95 seconds out of completing that springboard discipline there, so real hard lines.
Less than a second, the difference maker there to having a recorded time and getting some points. Let's take a look back here at what happened. And you can see they started off well with some good accurate hits for their pockets. The thing is that you want to make sure that there's none of that garbage inside the pocket, because the minute you step up there and there's a ton of garbage with in the pocket, that will cause the board to be a little bit wobbly. Now that first board from Tom was good. It was the second board that really caused problems for him.
Well, it was that first board as well, Troy, that when Tom did drop down from the second board to the first, that still took his weight, even though he
Yes, it
landed
did.
on that board.
Yes,
That's
it did,
clean
yeah.
cut. It was that problematic second pocket, giving all that trouble in that last minute 30.
And that's the thing that really killed the time for both of these guys. So now we're moving on to the last heat, and all hopes are on both of these gentlemen. Actually, it could be anybody's game. John Lewis currently leading in the overall standings, but we know Glenn Penlington very good in this discipline, and you see the personal best for Glenn is much quicker. It's a full minute quicker than John Lewis. So hopefully John's done some improvement, and Penlington as well.
Yeah, and you are looking at Glenn Penlington, our great British record holder in this discipline. This is going to be fascinating to watch these two guys go at the springboard. So Glenn has been chopping since he was 15 years old. Johnny himself, he's been chopping and soaring for what seems like a lifetime now as well. Both of these proud Welshmen. The axe is their specialism.
Ready. Stand to your timber. 3, 2, 1, go.
All right, here we go. This is the final heat in the last discipline before we eliminate 2 athletes and move on to the hot saw. Johnny Lewis going up against Glenn Penlington. Glenn, wow, he was quick up on that first board. Where was our cameraman? Sleeping at the wheel. And now, look at this. What a great board by Glenn Penlington. He's well back on that back foot and could put some proper drivers in as John Lewis is trying to set that second pocket, I believe. Yes, he is. And Glenn is already working on the top block with some great power drivers, having a good stance on the board and being able to really push through.
This is rapid from Glenn. This is where all the training, all the hard yards, all the hard work is paying off for him. This is immaculate work from Glenn.
John Lewis now on the top block. He's got so much power, he may well do some damage by catching up to Glenn Penlington, but I think at this point it's about getting as quick a time as he possibly can and making sure he's got the points. Glenn Penlington just passing the 1:02 mark here, so he's not going to have a personal best, but he'll be close to the fastest time of the day for sure. Yeah, there it is, 1:10:48. That's the fastest time in springboard so far today. So right now for John, it's about getting as quick a time as possible so that he can get as many points as possible. So he wants to have at minimum the 3rd fastest time of the day.
Yeah.
He's got the power. Can he keep that level of intensity up though, up there on top of that block?
It's Joe Groom's time of 1:43 that Johnny doesn't want to eclipse. This is looking close though.
John Lewis getting plenty of encouragement from the crowd here. Just passing 1:57 now.
He's certainly got the power. He's got to keep that breathing going.
Yeah, he's got to get on the backside there quickly. He's passing 2:11. Yeah, you can see it's really taking its toll. The big man with a lot of muscle mass, that it's a bit harder, and he's got to switch to the backside fairly quickly here. If he doesn't want to get a DQ, it's going to cost him.
Valiant effort there, Johnny.
Yeah, that is time exceeded for John Lewis.
You can see quite clearly there the amount it takes out of you up there. It is a punishing discipline.
It is a punishing discipline. He is breathing heavy now, and he'll take a moment up there where the air is thin to get himself back down. But John Lewis will hold on to his 47 points. That keeps him in 2nd place in the overall standings, with Terry Huff in 3rd place, Graham Turner in 4th, Joe Groom in 5th, and Tom Redmond just on the bubble in 6th place. That means those 6 gentlemen will move to the next round and the hot saw.
Okay, unfortunately, we have a disqualification, run out of time. However, cut is good.
Yeah, so congratulations to Glenn full 16 points, which is vital at this stage, Troy.
Yeah, absolutely. And you can see here on the slow-mo, he really obviously has been working on getting those pockets set as quickly as possible. Quick sweep with the fingers to get all of the junk out. And that second board was beautiful. That steep angle allows the tooth to really hook into that pocket as it sags down a little bit to near flat, and then he can put all the power into those drivers.
I mean, he raced up and got that first pocket in. It was a blink of an eye. That
we weren't even paying attention. He was up there on that first board. Or at least I wasn't. Maybe you were, but...
And listen, Johnny, it was hard going for the man. You know, he's chopping away there. He was in second place on our leaderboard. He needed those big points, but the unfortunate disqualification, is that going to cost him dearly when it comes to our final event next, the hot saw?
It shouldn't do, actually, because he's in there. He's second place in the overall standings, even with his 47 points and the DQ in the springboard. So really, coming down to the hot saw, it is the make or break discipline, and as you can get 18 points in the hot saw for the #1 spot, and as the hot saw is such a finicky tool to work with, you know, anything can happen, and it's anybody's game. You know, you can have a heartbreak run, or you can have an absolute killer run. So here we go.
All right, there's the points and how they've been distributed. 16 points go to Glenn Penlington. 14 points, new personal best for Joe Groom. He's in second. Again, Terry Hoff, third place with a PB of 1 minute 51. 12 points for Terry. And fourth place, a PB as well. Well done to Graham Turner with 10 points. And unfortunate disqualifications for Scott, George, Tom, and Johnny. So they will get 0 points from the springboard discipline. How does that affect things overall, Troy?
Well, let's take a quick look here. John Lewis was in the lead with 47 points, but because of the great performance by Glenn Penlington, he'll have those 16 points moving up to the top of the leaderboard. Tom Redmond, he drops down 1 spot to 6, and Spencer down a spot to 7, so he gets eliminated. So we see the top 6 guys moving on to the hot saw here, and Glenn Penlington in a very good position. But now the competition resets because it's anybody's game here.
Absolutely, yeah. Sad to see George Spencer go along with Scott Folks, but we have the hot saw next, very much as you've described there, Troy. It is the make or break event. It's unforgettable, it is loud, it is white hot. We're going to need some ear defenders here in Malvern, Worcestershire, for this final event of the British 2022 STIHL Timbersports Championships, with all eyes on the prize, the top spots, and the place in Gothenburg, Sweden in October.
It all comes down to the hot saw. That's next.
This is the one and only discipline where the athletes are alone on stage.
Yeah, probably the most important event, but yeah, also the most frustrating.
These saws are so incredibly powerful and dangerous.
Usually the hot saw is the decider.
Hot saw, hot saw.
I can't describe to you when we're out there under pressure.
Saw starts well, first disc looks solid, cut is good.
You know, you're always ending the competition on a hot saw, so you know where you're going to be at when you finish. So you're either at a real big high or just is what it is.
Nice clean cuts, easy, relaxed.
Der Hot Saw ist für mich die geilste Disziplin der Welt.
5, 6, 8, Robert Ebner, 3 on the deck.
Hot saw is a love-hate for me. I honestly don't get that much enjoyment out of it. I'm not a motorhead. I swallow my pills and eat it.
Once the competition comes, anything can happen. Oh no, a false start by Sterling Hart. What a disaster.
Yeah, it was a disappointment for me. Happens though, it's part of competing.
I saw there's 3 good discs there, but then let that nose come right up underneath the crossover line.
Unfortunately, a disqualification.
It all relies on the hot saw.
Oh no.
Irgendwie soll es einfach nicht sein. Und dann springt die Hot Saw nicht an, wieder mal.
Oh man, that is a bummer for Robert Ebner. What are you taking away from this event?
Oh, probably last place. I don't know, headache. Yeah, shit hotzel. What else do you want?
If you have bad luck or if you did wrong, it's part, just your experience.
Oh my goodness. What an absolute disaster. The chain came off.
I was not disappointed because everybody see that I can be with the guys in front.
It's a bit of a disaster, so it was just operator error, and I didn't perform as well as I would have liked to.
Nice safe cut.
Oh no! Oh no! Never prepared for that situation, but luckily it started and I got 3 wheels and now I'm the world champion.
Yeah, it's the make or break event, you know.
I think you love it and you hate it.
Das ist eigentlich immer ein geiles Ding. Ich schneide immer sehr sicher.
Oh, great start for both of these guys. Look at how quick it's going for Robert Ebner. Oh my God, Robert Ebner, he's got a world record. Holy smokes, folks.
Ich wollte das Ding heimbringen, ich wollte Weltrekord schneiden und ich danke meiner Familie zu Hause und alle, die mich unterstützt haben.
Just try to make 3 good cuts and no disqualification.
The hot saw is where it's all one, so that's the best event.
Little snapshot there of the international stage of STIHL Timbersports. We've seen some very memorable performances today so far here in Great Britain in Malvern for our British GB Timbersports Championships, and we are at the business end now, the hot saw, the final event. This is loud, this is unforgettable. Troy, what can we expect?
Unforgiving. That's what we can expect. These saws are unforgiving. If you make a mistake on the pull, if it doesn't start, you have to rewrap that starting cord. You can hear them in the background getting warmed up. These are beasts, and they are very finicky. If they don't like you on a day, they will not perform for you at all. That's why they call this the make or break discipline, because you could have 6 guys come off on stage, but only 1 guy with 3 clean cookies on the deck, and that guy could very well be your winner, coming from dead last to the top spot. So it's anybody's game here.
Let's take a look at the magnitude of the hot saw.
These custom handmade race-tuned machines are built for maximum power and precision and to cut the wood as fast as possible in a competition. They are built with a 60 to 80 horsepower single-cylinder 2-stroke engine, often taken from a snowmobile or high-powered motorbike. The hot saw can weigh up to 30 kilograms and its chain rotates at over 250 kilometers an hour. The cost of a competition hot saw used in STIHL Timbersports is upward of 6,000 euros. Hot saw. For the hot saw, power saws are called into action and the athletes have a space of 15 centimeters to cut 3 complete discs off a 46 centimeter thick wooden block. Jumping the start or cutting over the line will result in a disqualification.
Yeah, welcome back to Malvern, Worcestershire, beautiful part of Great Britain. And we have our final event. Things are heating up in every sense here now with the hot saw. We've got 3 heats. 2 athletes will take the stand at a time. First up will be Tom Redmond and Joe Groom, followed by Graham Turner, Terry Hoff. And then finally, the grand finale of Johnny Lewis and Glenn Pendleton, just as a hot saw warms up, just for added effect.
We're going to see John Lewis and Glenn Pendleton going head-to-head once again. They were head-to-head in the springboard, and they will go head-to-head again at the last heat in hot saw. And this is, as we mentioned and as we heard, the make-or-break discipline.
I mean, you look at the British national record time, there was 7.47, but the world record of 4.87 seconds. I don't think this is humanly possible. The hot saw itself weighs 30 kilograms. Just to pick that up, it'd take me half an hour.
We had Danny Martin's hot saw in the studio last year, and I lifted that thing up, and it is a beast. I can't even imagine when the motor's running and everything's moving around in there, and you have to guide that through the cookie, through that block 3 times, not just once, but 3 times. Here we go. Oh, by the way, ladies and gentlemen, don't blink.
Warm up your saws.
Mind your ears, though.
All right, so the guys will rewrap that starter cord, and this is the key here. Rewrap the starter cord. The saw should be warmed up enough so that they have a clean start on that first pull.
30
and then
seconds.
They'll be able to cut those 3 cookies within that 15-centimeter marking. If they have a cutout, if the cookie is incomplete, it's a DQ. So they have to be really, really aware of what they're doing with that 30-kilogram heavy saw with that chain running at 250 kilometers an hour. Last minute checks, and here we go. Tom Redmond on the left, Joe Groom on the right.
Athletes,
Here we
ready.
go.
Stand to your timber. 3, 2, 1, go!
Oh no, Tom Redmond. What happened there? Did we have 3 good cookies? No, his saw stopped midway on the second cut upwards. So that means that's going to be no points for him on a DQ. Joe Groom, well, it looks like he had 3 cookies on the deck, but Tom's saw cut out halfway up or right. Oh my goodness, look at that, right at the top of the cut. That is disappointing. And there we say the heartbreak of the hot saw. And it appears we have 2 DQs here.
Okay, unfortunately, both competitors are disqualified. Stand 1 didn't finish. Stand 2, he cut the line.
So there you go, the finicky nature of the hot saw, cut the line, didn't finish. It's a nightmare sometimes with these
You've
machines.
said this all along, Troy. It's those fine margins that can cost you the big points.
Yeah, and the margins are very, very fine when you're dealing with these pieces of equipment because they are so insanely power. It looked like a great start for both these guys. The first cookies were good, solid on the deck. Here's the upcut left-hand side of your screen from Tom Redmond, and right here, the machine just stops. It almost looks like he looked back as though he had tagged his cutoff switch or something. I'm not sure what happened there, but that is just really unfortunate for Tom as he didn't even get all the way through his second cookie, because he could have been well on his way to a good set of cuts there as we'll get our next guys on stage. And you'll hear the different sounds, the different tonalities of the motors. Depending on the motor that's on there, you're going to have a more high-pitched, whiny kind of sound, whereas the bigger Rotax motors are going to have that really growly, throaty, heavy-duty growl.
Some of my announcing and emceeing has been described as high-pitched and whiny, but we'll move on. I'm delighted to be here with you, Troy, in a beautiful part of the country in Great Britain for our British Pro Championships of 2022, and it's Heat 2 now of the hot saw. We have Graham Turner and Terry Hoff. So Terry in line in 3rd place currently, Graham in 4th. They'll be pushing for a podium finish. It's all down to the hot saw.
And you can see Dan Jansen out there on stage squaring up those blocks to make sure that the guidelines that they do draw on the blocks are fair and even for everybody. Graham Turner waiting to drag that heavy beast over. There's Terry Hoff. He knows what this is all about. His best 12:57. Wants to try and improve that every time, but you can see him breathing heavy. He knows exactly what's going on with this discipline.
And already Terry, his best ever finish in a British Timber Sports Championship was 5th last year, and he's been here since the very, very start, and he can't finish any lower than that now today, Troy. So early congratulations on a personal level to Terry.
Great job. Look at the bar on Graham's saw. It's a wider bar, so it tensions the chain a little bit better than you see perhaps on
the other saw that you see at the front of the stage there with a narrower bar. My opinion is, it's not always the right opinion, but my opinion is that you're less likely to have a chain skip off of that kind of a bar than a straight bar. But you're also cutting a lot wider pieces here.
Okay, gentlemen, warm up your swords.
Uh-oh. That is not a good sign for Graham here. He's got to get that thing started. He's got time to warm up the saw to get it started, but this is an important thing. There you go. Listen to that thing roar. Uh-oh. Well, we got one of them going anyway.
Seconds.
He seems satisfied. Wants to make sure positioning is correct for all of this. And as I said before, don't blink, folks.
Athletes, ready!
Stand to your timber. 3, 2, 1, go!
Oh, so close! All right, Terry Hoff had to cut a couple extra cookies there. He didn't like the one cookie that happened, and Graham, with a little skip on the top of his block, he could have been so close to a national record, but he had to just delay a little bit above and hover and make that final cut, but it was a very good cut and a personal best for Graham Turner.
Yeah, congrats, Graham, there. He was 10th last year in Telford, so again, big improvements, and a fist pump and a wave and a finger whack of delight from our Scotsman.
Well, that's the time to beat at the moment. 9 and change, 9:08 in fact after adjustment by the looks of it.
He's happy.
Okay, unfortunately, we have a disqualification. Cut the line. However, this cut is good.
Official 9:08 personal best for Graham Turner. Unfortunate for Terry Hoff. The Hoff gets a DQ cutting over the line.
The Hoff, you could say, is in a huff as he left the stage.
Ay. Let's take a look at it again in slow-mo. And we need extra slow-mo because of the speed. This is the very first time the saw didn't start for Graham. And here, let's have a look. This is Terry Hoff's first cut. So this looked actually very good. It was nice and thin. Didn't look like there was a cutout. Here's on the second cut, the up cut. Struggling on the timing a little bit on this one. This one looks like it might have been a bit of a thicker cookie. And then he targeted, was that the line? That was over the, no, that was Graham's second cookie. There's that little tap by Graham that cost him the time, and that could have been a really nice finish for him had he not made that little tap on the outside, but he needed to reposition that in order to make sure that he had a complete cookie and not a cutout. So that was a smart move by him, but a great time nevertheless.
How off-putting is it for the athletes when the cookies fall against the log that you're trying to cut, Troy?
It can be risky because if it gets kicked out and then it repositions the saw without you wanting to do that, it can knock into the block and cut over the line. So it can be a problem. But these guys, Graham did a good job. He's got the time to beat and a personal best.
Yeah. Now, what a fitting end to the scenes here at our British Pro Championships. The final heat, the final discipline, the final action in our afternoon. Johnny Lewis and Glenn Penlington. The big points up for grabs. Who is going to be crowned the British champion of 2022. It's all on the line, all down to the hot saw. 3 cookie cuts away from a gold medal, a first place finish on the podium.
Both of these guys have very, very respectable and fast personal bests. Glenn Pendleton in 8:73, and I believe that Johnny's time is an 8:0.
Okay, gentlemen.
Something or other.
Warm up your swords. Thirty seconds.
All right, these guys have to get their saws warmed up here.
Athletes, ready.
Stand to your timber.
Here we go.
3, 2, 1, go!
Wow, great time from Johnny Lewis, an 8:37. Glenn Pendleton hovered a little bit and took a little bit of time on his cuts. He's got a 10:30, but that is good enough for a solid 3 cookies on the deck and hopefully no DQs. Let's see what happens. Oh no, we have a flag on the play. What side? That was on Johnny Lewis's side. The flag is on Johnny Lewis's side, so they're going to show what's happened here. It looks like it's a cut over the line. We're going to get that confirmed by Andy Hall, our head judge here on stage.
One thing is for sure today, no matter what, we will have a new British champion crowned, a first-time winner for one of our athletes. We're just nervous moments now to see the outcome of this final stock sword discipline.
So some discussion going on there with Johnny Lewis and our judging crew, just to make sure that he understands what the decision is and why. Here we go.
Unfortunately, we have a disqualification for a cut line. However, this cut is good.
That is the moment that Glenn was waiting for. Confirmation. And that moment of pause and reflection, that third cookie cut. Did you see the breath? Did you see the?
He hung there for a moment.
I've got this.
He just needed to have 3 good cookies on the deck and not be slow or get a DQ. But this was it was a nail biter. And look at this, we have DQs across the board for the hot saw, except for 2 guys, Graham Turner and Glenn Pendleton. Graham Turner with the fastest time of the day here in hot saw. Glenn with the second fastest time, and you can see that hover right there to make sure he was lined up. He took an eternity up there.
You would though, wouldn't you, with the British Championship on the line. The first time ever for Glenn.
He wasn't going to risk it.
You know, he's been in and around timber sports since he was 15 years old.
Yeah, and that means with 77 points, he is the top leaderboard, and that being the last discipline, we'll see him in Gothenburg, Sweden, as the British champion.
And there was also the sibling rivalry to contend with his sister Zoe.
Right.
We've got a Pendleton 1-2. Zoe making history yesterday, being the top British female athlete, our first ever British female winner. But Glenn, this afternoon, with a confirmation, as you can see on the screens, it was Mr. Turner who took the full 18 points in the discipline. That won't concern Glenn one jot, because 15 points for his time of 10.17 is enough to take the championship. Now, There we have it, ladies and gentlemen. The final results from our STIHL Timbersports 2022 British Pro Championships. In 6th place with 38 points, Tom Redmond. 5th place, Joe Groom. Great finishes from these guys.
Yeah, very much so.
Big improvements as well, year on year. Terry Hoff, his best ever finish in 10 years experience as a timber sports athlete. 43 points for Terry, congratulations to you. 3rd place, Johnny Lewis. Valiant efforts as well in those last 2 disciplines, but not quite enough. That was a 47-point finish. Look at Graham Turner go.
Yeah, great job.
Like you say, those standings can change in a matter of disciplines, and Graham has propelled himself up to 2nd place, silver medalist, travelled all the way from Scotland. Graham Turner, 58-point finish. Great effort from Graham. But what can we say about our new champ? First time ever, the crown will be placed on his head. The champagne will be fizzing and popping and going everywhere.
Well,
very,
he did
very
live up
shortly.
to that favored status, so he's done a great job today to really make sure that he cemented himself as the top athlete here today. And it was a close one with Johnny Lewis. We had some good battles between those two today, and it could have gone either way with the two of them in the hot saw. Unfortunately for Johnny, he had that DQ in the hot saw, and Graham really took his time to make sure that he had that final clean cut.
Yeah, Johnny and Glenn going head-to-head throughout the afternoon, but the pressure that was on Glenn cannot be understated. He'd had his sister become the history maker yesterday, the first female British athlete, and then he had backstage ribbing, the pressure on his shoulders from the other athletes, just trying to get chinks in his armour. But he withstood everything. He withstood my interview as well, just adding an extra dimension to it. But full congratulations to Glenn. I'm delighted to see him crowned our British champion, a new British champion for the first time ever here in Malvern, Worcestershire.
And great job by the little guy, Graham, to get into 2nd place.
Yeah, I don't think anyone described Graham as little, I'll put it that way. But yeah, Troy, fantastic action we've seen here today. Great
Absolutely.
End as well, right the way through. We've seen personal best tumble, personal best fall. Big improvements from our athletes year on year as well.
Very much so. It's a fantastic event here today, and we still have the awards ceremony to come, and I think actually you're going to host that on stage, aren't you?
Yeah, I'll be up on stage. That's to come.
Ooh.
So as we say, the champagne corks will be popping. The athletes will be covered in fizzy wine in no time at all, and the medals will be presented. So without further ado, let's move on with our medal presentation. Okay, so I am proud to announce that the medals today will be presented by a new member of our STIHL family. Please welcome our new Managing Director, Kay Green, for STIHL GB, and she is presenting the medals to our athletes. So we have Gerald Lloyd, Bill Huarki, Os Williams, Scott Folkes, George Spencer, Tom Redmond, Joe Groom, Terry Hoff. Superb efforts from the gents you see on stage, and we are ready for our 3rd placed athlete. He gave it everything this afternoon. Please welcome onto the stage Mr. Johnny Lewis. Congratulations, Johnny. In his 8th of 9 Great British Championships. Congratulations, Johnny, all the way from Knighton in Wales. And now, 2nd place in only his 2nd ever timber sports. Congratulations to Graham Turner.
Attaboy, little fella.
And like everybody in association with timber sports is delighted to crown a new champion. And that man, please welcome to the stage from Knighton in Wales, Mr. Glenn Penlington. The new British superstar of timber sports. He is off to Sweden for the individual world championships in October. Heartfelt congratulations to Glenn. Breathe it in, Mr. Penlington. and get ready to drink it in with the champagne. And a huge round of applause to our audience who braved the elements here in Malvern as well. Thanks for being with us. And of course, our stage crew who make the whole event happen. Big, big appreciation, big love to you guys and girls. So, trophies aloft. Once again, our top pro athletes, Johnny, Graham and Glenn. And this is the biggest health and safety risk of the whole afternoon now, despite the axes and saws. It's always the alcohol. Drink responsibly, Johnny.
Is he old enough to have alcohol?
Brilliant work from all our athletes. And as you can see, great camaraderie, great respect. True
a family.
friendship. It's a true STIHL family that we have here now. It's our 9th event, our 10th anniversary. Very proud to bring this elite level sport to you. Right, I have the champ. I'm joined by the champ on stage now. I'm delighted to be crowning you champ here today, Glenn. What's gone through your mind today? What's the range of emotions you've experienced?
Oh, to be honest, I just can't believe it. It's fantastic to finally get on that top step of the podium. I was under a bit of pressure from the family and everyone that my sister won yesterday, so we wanted to make it a Pennington double. So I'm over the moon to do that.
Yeah, delighted. We know your dad retired a couple of years ago. Your sister was our first ever female pro winner, and to get the family Pennington 1-2 double today is absolutely delightful. We're all associated with STIHL Timbersports. You know, we're absolutely delighted for you and the family, Glenn, so congratulations there. Now, you're off to Sweden. Does the training start in earnest straight away?
For sure, yeah. I've actually got the European trophy coming up in 2 weeks, so it's training through to there, and I'll continue to train and see how I get on in Sweden. So yeah.
Like, we know the effort, the journey you've been on for years and years now with STIHL Timbersports, but you know, just how much has it taken out of you? What's gone into the training? What have you invested in it yourself?
Oh, you know, the training, you've got to work hard for this. You've got to put the effort in. I just want to give a big shout out to my old man. Without him, all the work he puts in with us, you know, it's unreal. So that's this was one for him anyway.
Yeah, and he celebrated his birthday yesterday, so very fitting birthday present for your father, Bob. Now, you've down tools for the day. What's the plan for the rest of the weekend here on camp?
We'll probably have a couple of drinks tonight, I'm sure. Celebrate a little bit with everyone. And then, yeah, we've got some demos to do tomorrow, so we can't have all the fun, but we'll be celebrating for sure.
Yeah, listen, Glenn, once again, it's massive congratulations to you. We're all delighted to see that gold medal around your neck, and we wish you every success in the future within STIHL Timbersports. Congratulations to you. Listen, there are tickets still available for Sweden if you would like to go. Troy, Gothenburg, October.
Yep.
What's the script?
Tickets are still available. They're going to be sticky tickets if you don't buy them soon, though. But yeah, tickets are still available for Gothenburg. We're going to see that man who just did the interview with you in Gothenburg. And as he said, he'll also be competing at the European Trophy in 2 weeks' time. So he's got plenty of action coming up in front of him. And there's plenty of action coming at the end of our STIHL Timbersports season in October in Gothenburg, Sweden. So make sure you check that out. It's going to be fantastic.
Now, it's been a delight to be here today in Malvern in Worcestershire for the 2022 British Timbersports Championship. Troy, it's been great having you here as our expert commentator.
Thank you so much.
All the way from Canada via Munich. It's been a special day. What are your thoughts on what you've seen today as a brief summary?
It's been a fantastic day of activity. I mean, you can really see the quality and the skill level that's coming through with the young guys that are stepping up, with Glenn moving into that top spot and really taking over the #1 position as the top British pro timber sports athlete. So the future is looking bright as well. The highlight of having the women's competition here, a record-making competition. So all in all, it's been a really fantastic weekend, and it's not over yet. We still have the rookies to come tomorrow.
Yeah, very much looking forward to that. But for now, ladies and gentlemen, thanks for joining us. Thanks to Troy. Thanks to our whole crew here in Malvern in Great Britain.
Ciao, everyone.